Chapter 1742. One day, 2 days. Unknowingly, a month had passed. Even the Black Pharaoh could not sit still. However, due to some personal reasons, he was too embarrassed to ask for the opinion of his original body. He could only continue to wait. What's going on? In the past, the chosen ones who were sent here took at most 7 days to accept the advanced scroll. Why did this kid take so long? If he was enslaved by the demonic book, his original body would definitely sense the changes in the head and rush down. Let's wait a little longer. The Black Pharaoh continued to wait for 10 days. Finally, he could not sit still anymore. His original body descended in front of the stone room. He was ready to see what was going on personally. With his realm and strength, he would not be affected by the remnant pages of truth. His only worry was that the evil in the remnant pages would take the opportunity to leave through the cracks and even escape the pyramid to affect the situation outside. As long as a single undead appeared, it would spread like a terrifying plague in the capital. Although the situation would definitely be controlled by the Walker in the end, the damage caused would cause the world to regress by several years or even decades. The Black Pharaoh used his consciousness transmission to instruct the control of the suppression hall. Whoosh! He touched the wall with the tip of his staff and instantly went inside. However, the evil did not take the opportunity to come out of the stone room. The situation inside the stone room was abnormally stable. The evil substance that should have filled the stone room was almost reduced to zero. The scene reflected in the Black Pharaoh's eyes was far beyond his expectations. Even his crystal eyes, which had not changed color for a long time, were filled with layers of ripples. This kid, Han Dong, presented the image of an undead whose body was pierced by iron wires. He sat cross-legged in the air. The remnant pages of the advanced scroll were separated into individual pages. They surrounded Han Dong's body and turned into a whole body. The reason why Han Dong stayed inside for such a long time was completely because he was immersed in the contents of the advanced scroll and could not extricate himself. It was as if he had a preview of a new world in the book. He even came into contact with the essence of the Book of the Undead, a huge entity lying flat in the artistic conception. Perhaps it had sensed the aura of an outsider. Or perhaps the demonic book itself had smelled the existence of danger. Han Dong, who was traveling in the world of the advanced scroll, slowly opened his eyes. As the reading status was removed, the strange iron wire that pierced through Han Dong's body, as well as a unique undead characteristic, were all retracted into the page. The pages floating around him also neatly returned to his hands. Obviously, Han Dong had already completely mastered the advanced scroll. Senior, this is... Seeing that you haven't come out for a long time, I came in to check if you're dead. After all, you once received my will and power. Even if you're dead, you could be made into a very good mummy guard, or even become a priest to take care of the chores below for me. Han Dong looked surprised and quickly asked, "A long time? How long have I been here?" "About 40 Earth rotation cycles." Even Han Dong himself was shocked. So long. I felt like only 1 or 2 hours had passed, and I was still learning and exchanging ancient knowledge. However, I had almost mastered the entire advanced scroll. Just as Senior said, I seem to be able to sense the location of the other scrolls. The most recent one seems to be here. You can try to look for it. Remnant page perception is the basic ability of controlling the advanced scroll. We do still have the iRemnant page sealed here, and it was brought back by this Senior a few years ago, saying that it was prepared for you. If you can find the approximate location, it means that you are indeed qualified to continue learning, and I can give this Senior an explanation. Okay, I'll look for it. Han Dong closed his eyes again, holding the advanced scroll in one hand and searching in the room with the other. In the dark, Han Dong seemed to be searching for something on the surface of a supergiant human body. When he finally touched the giant human body's eyes, a double pupil I slowly opened in Han Dong's skull. Found it. It should be under the stone room. His palm gently landed on the display table where the advanced scroll was placed. Along with the infusion of gray energy, some kind of seal was slowly removed. Rumble. The display table moved away, revealing a secret passage leading to the underground. An extremely strange scene came into view. Densely packed, different shaped, and colorful eyeballs filled the secret passage at the bottom. Every eye had its own consciousness, and when the display table moved away, they all stared at the two living beings at the entrance. This gaze made the small magic eye between Han Dong's eyebrows open by itself, and the pupils shrank back and forth as if greeting these eyeballs. The Black Pharaoh was very repulsed by these evil things and immediately knocked the ground with his staff, casting a kind of king-level technique. Rustle, 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 two exquisitely carved sphinxes rose from both sides of the entrance, acting as a seal to prevent these grape-like eyeballs from spreading out. Once they infected the faceless priest outside, things would become very troublesome. You have indeed mastered the advanced scroll. According to this senior's request, I will help you go to the lowest seal to obtain the eye remnant. There is no need to trouble the Black Pharaoh. These eyeballs should not attack me. The following journey should be considered a test for me by the Book of the Dead, so let me walk on my own. If something happens and causes the evil to spread, I will need Senior to suppress it from the outside. As Han Dong spoke, he had already stepped into the secret passage, and even took the initiative to reach out and touch the densely packed eyeballs, appearing to be extra intimate. Okay, you can go down. The Black Pharaoh, holding his staff, stood in the stone room and waited quietly. Gurgle, gurgle, there was a feeling of entering a high-density vineyard. All kinds of smooth, moist spherical objects slid against his body, and at the same time, there was a whisper in his consciousness. However, this time, the whispers were not meant to disturb Han Dong. Instead, they were meant to welcome him. Whether it was good or bad, as long as it did not affect him, it was enough. It's so deep. After about 6 hours, he finally stepped on the last step. In a huge underground space, an extremely large eyeball with various patterns on its surface was staring at Han Dong. Whether it was the nerve roots of this eyeball or the nerves of the small eyeballs that hung all over the walls and crowded the passage, all of them were gathered here. It was connected to a book of remnant pages. The advanced scroll in his hand was already resonating. When Han Dong tried to pass it, unexpectedly, the giant eyeball stacked all kinds of eyes together, tried to exert a powerful eye technique. It was as if the eyeball released by the remnant page had developed a complete consciousness after a few days of growth, and it wanted to control Han Dong's consciousness to obtain true freedom. I have long seen through your intentions. Whoosh! The void flickered. A long sword made of black liquid had already stabbed into the center of the eyeball. The eyeball, which had been hit by the dimensional reduction, quickly turned into a small dot and was sucked into the demon's sword. Not bad. The demon's sword seems to like it. The demon's sword continued to float around his body, and any eyeball that approached would be directly killed. Han Dong quickly stepped forward and grabbed the remnant page of the eyeball on the ground. For a time, the small eyeballs that crowded the underground area were all retracted into the remnant page. Book of the Dead Souls. A true edition has been recorded. Chapter 1743. Let's rewind time to a few hours ago. It was also the time when Han Dong went to the stone room and began to understand the book of necromancy. He ignored the invasion of the demonic book and immersed himself in reading. Buzz! Han Dong's consciousness was guided by the words of the preprint, and went beyond shall knows to the world hidden in the preprint. Through the interaction between the pages and the ancient words, a deeply hidden world of consciousness was constructed in the book. His consciousness landed in the mountains and rivers, and Han Dong was immediately shocked by the beautiful scenery in front of him. He had not seen such natural greenery in a long time. Since the eternal night shrouded this world, the natural environment was covered with a layer of distortion. This, just using words to outline such a huge and perfect world of consciousness, it really is the supreme demonic book. But it feels very strange. The environment here is obviously similar to Earth, but the air is filled with an indescribable sense of death. Although the ecological parameters are in line with the development of life, It is unable to give birth to a true life of consciousness. Han Dong came to the side of the Green River. The preprint in his hand sensed something pointing to the depths of the river. Perhaps there was the center of the world of consciousness. Or perhaps it hid the secrets of the book of necromancy. A small boat floated on the water. While drifting along the river, Han Dong continued to immerse himself in reading. The preprint also mentioned the true name of this world of consciousness, the origin. Han Dong read it out. This is the origin that should have existed? The area where life in the world should have originated, constructed by the rules of the universe. Should have existed. Han Dong took note of these 4 words. Combined with the contents of the preprint, Han Dong understood that the origin that should have belonged to S01 did not appear in S01. When the world was first formed, due to the large proportion of chaotic matter, it even gave birth to a great existence. As a result, the origin that should have given birth to the first generation of humans was not formed, or was disintegrated by the chaotic corrosion in the early stages of the planet's construction. The contents of the book, the land of origin that was supposed to be formed by Hui, could not be formed in the world. The spread of chaos and the birth of abnormal demons completely violated the rules and routes of the world. The more it deviated from the world's pre-development path, the more antimatter would be produced. Confusion, negativity, and negativity accumulated in the world. When they reach a certain magnitude, the matter that should exist will appear in the universe in an anti-state. This book is the reverse form of the land of origin and the first-generation humans that should have been born. It is compiled using the lines of the rules and presented in the form of a book. Han Dong was greatly shocked when he read up to this point. This S01 was the same as other worlds. Humans were supposed to be the basic species, but due to the extreme imbalance of chaos, this process could not be carried out. Following the birth of the primal chaos sovereign, the origin of the Yimo, the path of the world's operation deviated greatly from the original path, causing the accumulation of negative matter. In the end, an existence that was the complete opposite of the human species in the land of origin was created and presented in the form of a book. This book was none other than the book of necromancy. It was no wonder that the book was divided into sections based on human body parts. In that case, the origin of the other demonic books should be similar. No wonder the demonic book is so dangerous and powerful, and no wonder the demonic book was set up in the world of S01. Even Han Dong, who had a strong ability to accept things, was greatly shocked when he read these contents. Thinking about it, the necromancy in the book of necromancy should be an opposite of human. If I completely learned this demonic book, what would I become? Would I become this extremely dangerous necromancy that can threaten all living beings? Or could it be that the human element that I carried with me would fuse with the anti-human element of undead and achieve a kind of perfect neutralization? No wonder no hybrid demons can cultivate it. After all, this book is fundamentally related to humans. Even the most talented hybrid demons would reject the demonic book. Only those with human attributes will be able to accept and learn it. Perhaps the Grey Walker, or that existence in the void, saw through this characteristic of the book of necromancy and chose a middleman like me. Otherwise, any random demonic book would be enough as a reward. An unknown amount of time passed. Han Dong followed the boat to the end of the river. What appeared before him was a barren land. A huge corpse was lying flat on the ground. The corpse was slightly embedded in the ground. According to the records of the pre-scroll, this was the first generation of humans that should have appeared in S01. When Han Dong came into contact with the corpse, using the corpse as a medium, Han Dong could sense the remnant pages that were scattered in every corner of the universe. By touching the arm, he could sense the approximate location of the remnant pages in the hand. By touching the eye, he could sense the remnant pages of the eye were close to the body. Just as Han Dong was wandering around the corpse and touching every part of the body. The acceptance of the pre-scroll was also gradually perfected. At this time, corresponding to the arrival of the Black Pharaoh, the remnant pages of the pre-scroll floated around Han Dong. forming a complete body. The embryonic form of the throne that stood at the bottom of the abyss of consciousness was actually undergoing slight changes. At this moment, Han Dong finished the acceptance of the true I book and stepped back into the stone room. After a series of checks by the Black Pharaoh to ensure that it had not been turned into a dead spirit, the suppression and seal were completely lifted. The 18 priests who had been suppressing the main hall and guarding it day and night finally came to a stop and rest. The Black Pharaoh also looked at Han Dong in a new light after this contact. Very good. It's a pity that you can't stay in Shalnos for a long time. Otherwise, I would also like to have a chat with you. At least I can pass on some knowledge about the Pharaoh to you. When your faceless form is completely stabilized, you can come and stay here. Remember, Shalnos belongs to your foreign land. Thank you, Pharaoh. When he stepped out of the pyramid, the walker, who was waiting outside the pyramid, did not make any comments. He seemed to be very sure that Han Dong would be able to successfully control the Book of the Dead. Thank you, Senior Walker, for fighting for the opportunity to read the Book of the Dead for me. No need to thank me. You fought for this yourself. Since you have achieved your goal, don't stay here any longer. The remaining remnant pages of the Book of the Dead will require you to find a way to collect them. This is also a special experience for you. You have already mastered the means to travel in the shattered dimension, so I don't need to remind you of anything. As for the Black Tower, try to bring back as much information as possible. Cultivating the real magic eye in advance may help you to read more details in the Black Tower. The information seeds you planted in different areas are very effective. Now, the entire hybrid demon circle already knows about the abnormal situation in the Black Tower. Okay, the voice ended. The walker's palm gently landed on Han Dong's back and pushed him. He directly pushed him to the other side of the world and returned to the center of chaos through the secret passage. The gray matter that contaminated Han Dong's body was also completely removed to ensure that his development would not be affected. Han Dong took a deep breath and kept the remnant pages. Let's go. After picking up the doctor, it's time to go to the Black Tower. I can finally see the true appearance of the shelter and see the real threat hidden in it. Chapter 1744. It took another 40 days to retrieve the original page of the Book of Necromancy. Han Dong still had many things to deal with. For example, before going to the Black Tower shelter, he had to cultivate the true demonic eye in advance so that he could spy on more useful information in the shelter. When the time came, he had to pick up the 3 generals who were sent out for training and arrange matters related to Count Travel. Han Dong did not want to continue falling in the abyss for another month. Let's go directly to Grim. Han Dong followed his senses and found the main abyss in the Chaos Star. When he was ready to go to the Chaos Royal Court, a strong feeling suddenly hit him. The small hole in his shoulder was rapidly enlarging. An arm full of small holes stretched out to greet Han Dong. Hey, were you taken away by the walker as soon as you came out of the party? By the way, is the matter of the Book of Necromancy settled? The smell on your body seems to have changed a little. It's most likely settled. I've only mastered the advanced scroll. Next, I have to go to various parts of the world, and even to the Shattered Dimension to find other exiled pages. When the time comes, I may need to borrow Grimm's power. For such an interesting matter, even if you didn't ask me, I would have taken the initiative to help. By the way, are you free now? Do you want to have a real fight with me? I've waited for you to construct a myth, and I don't have many concerns here. I can fight with you head-on with all my strength. Grimm's pupils contracted and showed a strong desire. Han Dong could see that any kind of rejection would upset Grimm. If he could not get what he wanted here, the relationship between the two of them would be affected. If he agreed, although this battle was not likely to be life-threatening, there was a high probability that it would end with serious injuries, or even a few months, or even a few years of hibernation. Grimm, do you remember the scene when you saw me in the Chaos Cell? Oh, you mean the kind of pure physical collision? If you want to fight in this way, it's totally fine. A direct physical collision may be more efficient to strengthen the crazy communication between us. No, I mean just the two of us fighting may not be very satisfying. and Grim and I are already slowly exchanging and complimenting each other. Maybe we could try a more exciting way. Glenn stared at Han Dong meaningfully. What do you want to do? Green, there's a crazy group in the control center of the Destiny Realm, the Black Tower. I learned how to fight in the prison from them. Since the Black Tower wants to establish an indirect cooperation with us, perhaps I can apply to bring you in ahead of time. When the time comes, I can go to the Fight Club to try my luck. That's where all the madmen and experts from thousands of worlds gather. I've been losing continuously since I joined, and it's only recently that I've barely been able to obtain some victories. These words immediately piqued Grim's interest. Black Tower? Fight Club. Do you lose most of your fights? That would be very interesting. I don't know what kind of battle results I'll have, and I don't know if those guys are really as crazy as you said. When are we leaving? After I go to the Abyss party to pick up the professor, we will leave. If you're just going to pick someone up, there's no need to perform fall. Follow me, don't waste time. What a coincidence. Taking advantage of Grim's special identity. Following the manager's passage of the Chaos Court, they went straight to the deepest part. Han Dong directly took out the cooperation agreement signed with the Abyss Council. The one who received the information and came to receive him was the manager he met in the party room before. The eyeball floating at the top of his neck showed a gentle and friendly smile. When it noticed the mythical aura emanating from Han Dong's body, it also showed a hint of surprise. You've already advanced to mythical level? What a terrifying growth rate. And you're exuding a completely different aura from the previous party. Also, I have to congratulate you on something. Professor Swollen is also in cooperation with us, piercing through the rather shallow, mythical membrane and rising to a whole new level. The technical exchange between us is basically over. Please follow me. Hearing this, Han Dong just showed a more normal smile. The professor who received the Migo inheritance was already close to the edge of mythical level. It was completely reasonable for him to have a breakthrough during the Abyss exchange. Following him, they came to a huge research room full of rotating stone pillars. The professor's aura was scattered in every corner of the room. Upon closer inspection, one would find that a snail-shaped brain was attached to the surface of each stone pillar. At the same time, these brains also sensed Han Dong's arrival. Hiss, 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 threads of brains intertwined in the center of the hall. They were carrying out an extremely complicated and unique neural weaving, constructing the professor's body with pure brain cells. Waves of pure, mental waves spread out from under his feet. The reality intervention of the mythical level domain even made the floor of the chaotic material show the surface of the brain. Lord, even if he had become a mythical, when the academician saw Han Dong, he was still as excited as usual when he addressed Han Dong as his lord. Let's go. We still have important things to do. Yes. The professor turned into a brain nerve and quickly connected back to Han Dong's brain. As soon as the professor returned to the prison world, he immediately exclaimed in surprise, Lord, what's going on? Did someone invade the prison world while I was away? Who the hell is it? How dare they? It's just a small side effect of the preface of the Book of the Dead. Don't panic. Even if you're not here, the prison guards can easily suppress it. The Supreme Demonic Book. Congratulations, Lord. Professor, I also congratulate you. It's quite a good mythical form. All right, how much of the chaos technology did you get? The relevant foundation has been completely copied into my brain, still need to be converted and experimented. If it's feasible, I might be able to get a set of biological templates for elite cultivation. Not bad. Hurry up and do it. I'll call you when I need you. Yes. When Han Dong left the Abyss Research Institute with a satisfied face, he also received a special invitation from the director. With this card, he could freely go to the Chaos Council research area. They welcome Han Dong's arrival at any time. When the two quickly returned to the upper level through the same secret passage, Han Dong suddenly remembered something. Grim, where's my ghoul? Oh, you still remember? That little guy is not bad. He's receiving special training from Mr. Fogg. He may become an important member of the Chaos in the future. Seeing that we have such a good relationship, can you leave it with me for the time being? Since Grim had put it this way, Han Dong naturally could not refuse. He could only pat Grim's shoulder meaningfully. After returning to the palace, he immediately met up with Sally and set off for the exit of the Chaos Star. When Sally heard that they were going to the Black Tower, she was also more excited. She was also very curious about such a Black Tower organization that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the higher-ups. However, just as everyone followed the original path and left this center of chaos, the moment they returned to the Shane slave city, beep, 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 Han Dong immediately received an urgent message from Misha University. Sally, who was beside him, also received the same message. The sender was Professor Kuji. The Black Forest has been unsealed. Just right. Chapter 1745. Professor Kuji found out that the two went to Shane Nudu half a year ago, so she came here to wait for them. After coming out of the center of chaos, Han Dong and the others immediately met up with Professor Kuji, who was temporarily staying in the slave city. Seeing Grim, Professor Kuji bowed slightly. There was only one thing in her mind, so she immediately cut to the topic. Nicholas, can you come with me now? The Black Forest has been reopened a month ago, but Mother's condition is worse than before. We need to think of a solution. Professor Kuji, who was staring at the white goat horn, was the famous professor of Mishu. She was unable to control her emotions. Milky white tears were rolling in her eyes, and she was in a state of emotional turmoil. Okay, we'll go now. What about you, Grim? Grim frowned. That black goat is a bit troublesome, and you're just going to check on its injuries. I won't go with you. Nicholas, which portal do we use to go to the Black Tower, Mishu? If so, I'll go and play with Pope. The main human city. I have to find a way to get you access to the Black Tower. That's the only way. Grim's face was covered with tiny tongues, licking his face crazily. The main human city. I remember there's an interesting knight named Charlie, and there's also a group leader comparable to the old king. I'll go there and wait for you. I can play with these guys. Han Dong was shocked. Grim, don't do anything stupid. The human city is in an important phase of reconstruction. Don't worry. These humans know the rules. I won't take the initiative to cause trouble. These two black goats can't wait any longer. You should go and help them. If it takes too long, I'll be bored in the human city, and I might do something bad. Grim waved his hand and walked alone to the portal of the hero's sanctuary. Let's go. After confirming that Han Dong was at the center of chaos, Professor Kuji built a teleportation channel in the secret rock stratum outside Shane's slave city that led to the Black Forest. Whoosh! Floating in the universe, the bottom layer of Yadith was guarded by the giant devourer worms and expanded through the corpses. The damaged Black Forest was stored here. After several years of closed repair, it was only to ensure that the essence did not leak out temporarily. In order to ensure that Mother would not be disturbed, all portals and passages could only reach the outside of the Black Forest. If one wanted to reach the heart of the tree, they could only walk there. Sally and Kuji, whose lower bodies had turned into black goats, were running at full speed in the front. Han Dong rode a perfectly proportioned bloodhound and followed closely behind. Indeed, compared to the last time I came here, the overall vitality of the Black Forest has decreased. Although it could be repaired with the world's resources, the condition of the mother body would only get worse. He could only give a try. The goat mother was one of the most important creatures in S01, and could even be compared to the world's mother. If Mr. M's modeling fluid can really have the effect of reconstructing the king's body, that would be the best. Now the only hope is that Mr. M's conditions are not too harsh. Han Dong held the letter with the M wax seal in his hand. According to Mr. M, as long as the goat mother was willing to agree to the conditions, he would provide an unlimited amount of modeling fluid until she recovered. Han Dong could only guess that the content of the letter might be related to some restrictions on the black goats and the special cooperation between the Black Tower and S01. They arrived at the heart of the Black Forest a few hours ahead of time. Compared to the last time they came here, the main tree with a diameter of 300 meters was drier, and even withered black leaves were constantly falling. They entered through the moist, soft, and mucus-covered cavity at the bottom of the trunk. Heart of the tree, habitat of the goat mother. In the open room that beat like a heart, a palace-shaped bathtub was quietly placed in the center. Han Dong could not be more familiar with the smell emitted from it. After all, he had soaked in the bathtub for a while. Mother, Sally and Kuji knelt on the ground as soon as they stepped into the heart of the tree. Through the umbilical cord-like material growing from the bottom of their abdomens, they connected to the veins of the earth in the heart of the tree, establishing a deep connection with their mother. About 10 seconds passed. Both of them had a strange expression on their faces. After looking at each other and then at Han Dong, they did not dare to disobey the order they just received and quickly left the room. Only Han Dong stayed in the heart of the tree. "You are finally here, Nicholas." The soul-stirring voice went straight to his brain. A female head with vertical goat horns and wet black hair slowly floated out of the bathtub. Her arms that looked like black silk gloves were gently placed in front of the bathtub, and her head was also pressed on the back of her hands. Her heart-shaped eyes stared straight at Han Dong. Being stared at like this, it was inevitable that there would be some physiological reaction, but Han Dong was not moved. Instead, he felt the weakness from the goat mother and showed a worried expression. "Your body seems to be worse than last time. Of course, didn't you check last time? Being able to maintain the whole is already the limit. It's normal for it to deteriorate day by day. But I don't care. After all, such an interesting guy like you appeared during this time. I didn't expect to see you again. Have you reached the mythical level? And each piece of the puzzle is of extremely high quality. Since you are here, come in quickly." Han Dong naturally could not refuse the request of a superior existence. When his body was immersed in the bathtub like a nutrient express, a soft, slightly hairy substance slowly wrapped around Han Dong's body from the bottom of the bathtub. It seemed to be stroking and wriggling back and forth. It came from the goat mother's tail. The two leaned against each other on both sides of the bathtub and began to have a deep conversation. Han Dong was too embarrassed to look up because when he saw the goat mother's face, the lower end of his vision also included some large and white objects. "Kuji and Sally brought you here in such a hurry. There should be something important, right? Is it about the restoration of the body that you mentioned last time?" "Yes, I brought a modeling fluid produced by a high-level Black Tower executive. This fluid is used to construct the world. It is extremely stable and malleable, and it has its own framework rules. Maybe it can really work." Han Dong took out a liter of white liquid. "However, I can only get this bottle of trial at the moment. You could try it first." As soon as he said that, a pale pink tongue had already stretched out and drilled into Han Dong's teeth. After licking a full circle in his mouth, it slowly rolled the bottle back. "The flow of this liquid looks strange. Don't use your own liquid to deceive me. You want to take the opportunity to get the offspring between you and me. If I had such an idea, I wouldn't have lied to you." "Haha, that's true. It's just that I'm not suitable for reproduction now. My body can no longer afford any offspring. I hope this little bottle can be useful." The goat mother didn't even check the thing in the bottle. Gurgle, gurgle, the viscous liquid went down the throat, and the modeling fluid quickly flowed to the pile of broken bodies that really belonged to the goat mother at the bottom of the bathtub. Suddenly, planet Attis, floating in the universe, suddenly stopped moving. An abnormal vitality spread out from the inside of the planet, and even some black trees broke through the crust and were exposed to the surface of the planet. Chapter 1746. Although there were only a few trees growing on the surface of Attis, although the spread of vitality only lasted for a few seconds, but it was this change that made the old Wangdu in the multiverse area feel it. They even stopped what they were doing and immediately arranged for the fastest agents to collect information. If the sheep mother could be revived, this matter would affect the progress of the entire universe. Similarly, sensing this, the black goat heirs scattered in different parts of the world stopped what they were doing. Even the black goat that was carrying out a dangerous mission evacuated the area at all costs and rushed back to the Black Forest. Countless eras had passed since the sheep mother was severely injured during the world catastrophe. Her body had been on the verge of collapse. Not to mention the life force spreading like this. Even a slight recovery of life force had never happened before. This sudden surge of life force made almost everyone think that Sheep Mother was about to wake up. It even covered the entire universe with a layer of life force. Nicholas, this thing actually works. Perhaps because she never had hope. Perhaps she had tried more than tens of thousands of repair methods, all of which were ineffective. Perhaps she had already planned to inherit the throne. The Sheep Mother, who had completely accepted it, experienced an unexpected repair and reconstruction at this moment. When the vitality that filled and no longer disappeared, the feeling of rebirth that had waited for tens of thousands of years came from the root. Because of excitement, she pounced on Han Dong, who was opposite the bathtub. As she hugged Han Dong in her arms, the Sheep Mother's body trembled violently with excitement. The reason why she trembled so violently, it was mainly because the modeling fluid that flowed along the esophagus and into the body cavity seemed to have self-consciousness to find the severely damaged areas to repair. Relying on a unique structural rule, it perfectly repaired the damaged areas. However, because the Sheep Mother was a superior existence, the modeling fluid was consumed at a very fast rate. In less than a minute, the model creation liquid that was enough to build a miniature world was used up. In exchange, the Sheep Mother's body cavity was repaired by about 1%. The humanoid body that hugged Han Dong gradually stopped trembling. Han Dong, who was buried in the soft body, finally had a chance to breathe fresh air. However, he didn't care about the beautiful scenery in front of him. He was more concerned about the situation below. Han Dong said with excitement, "It really works? Can I dive down to observe the changes in your body? There's a need to determine whether this is a temporary repair or a permanent repair. You can go down, but be gentle. It was the same as before." The humanoid female body of Goat Mother lying in the bathtub was just a way to express her stance to the outside world. Its truly damaged and broken giant body was soaked in the forest essence at the bottom of the bathtub. As Han Dong drilled through the flesh gap at the bottom of the bathtub, he quickly found the flesh cavity that had been repaired by the modeling fluid. The newly reconstructed white meat perfectly filled the gap. Even the soul was completely repaired without any cracks. The meat formed by the modeling fluid was still sticking to the Goat Mother's body and slowly becoming her original flesh and blood. If that's the case, the main thing is that the amount of liquid is enough to allow the Goat Mother to fully recover. Just as Han Dong was about to say those words, a soft and squeezing sensation came from his back. An arm that seemed to be wearing a black silk glove also conveniently wrapped around Han Dong's neck. A pair of mouths grew out of the surface of her tongue and gently bit his ear. "Nicholas, I didn't expect you to be able to get your hands on such a good item. However, if you want to supply this thing in large quantities, you must pay a price, right? What are the conditions offered by the guys from the Black Tower? Let's go up and talk. It's not good to stay in your body for a long time." Okay, when the two emerged from the bathtub again, they were no longer in the previous sitting opposite each other, but one in front and one behind. Han Dong was in front, completely lying between the soft and white divine body. Goat Mother gently hugged him from behind. A letter sealed with the seal of was already in Han Dong's hand. "This is the condition offered by Mr. M, but I don't know the specifics. If the condition is too much, I hope you won't be angry. I will think of other ways. Don't worry. Those damn guys from the Black Tower will definitely ask for an exorbitant price. If I can't accept it, then forget it. I have already planned for the worst. Once I decide that there is no point in continuing, I will transfer the important things I still have on me to Sally. Right now, she can barely accept it, and the other superiors will definitely help out when they see the importance of the Black Forest." While speaking, Goat Mother had already rested her head on Han Dong's right shoulder. Her slender hands were opening the special letter in Han Dong's hand, ready to let the two of them read the contents of the letter together. "Dear Black Mountain Goat, When you open this letter, Nicholas must be by your side, and the modeling fluid I provided has already taken effect. I only need you to do two things. One, within 10,000 years, you and your subordinates and descendants are not allowed to take the initiative to threaten the Black Tower. Of course, this is not limited to a large-scale war between us. Two, as for the emissaries we may send in the next few years and the upcoming cooperation negotiations, I need your support opinion. Nicholas will explain the details to you. As long as you do the above two things, I am willing to provide the fluid unconditionally until you recover. This is... Han Dong stared at the contents of the letter in shock. He was worried that Mr. M would take the opportunity to ask Goat Mother for some pure fertility fluid, or ask her to help the Black Tower with some troublesome matters, or even directly ask the Black Mountain Goat to participate in the suppression of the shelter. I'm not allowed to do anything for 10,000 years? That's fine. Once the time limit is over, I'll settle the score with those guys from back then. But what does the second point mean? Nicholas, what is this cooperation negotiation? It's something like this. Han Dong told him in detail about the Black Tower possibly going out of control, as well as the special cooperation they wanted with World Ezra 1. Ha. These arrogant fellows actually asked for help. Furthermore, they asked for help from us hybrid demons. It seems like they're in a very troublesome situation. It could cause the entire Black Tower to collapse and kill this group of people. I really want to witness this self-destruction process with my own eyes. I'm fine, but if it's just giving my opinion, I'm fine with it. As for what happens in the Black Tower, I won't interfere, unless those rampagers come to our world to cause trouble. Han Dong heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. The thing that he was most worried about had finally come to an end. At the same time, he said to Goat Mother, we'll have to wait for the Black Tower to send someone to discuss the details of the cooperation. Just focus on recovering. As for what happens in the Black Tower, I'll take care of it with the others. Oh, you're quite good with words. It sounds like you want to protect me. Really, ever since I was born, no one has ever said that to me. I really like it. I'll talk to Sari about it when the time comes. Saying this, Goat Mother had already signed her name on the bottom right corner of the letter. Chapter 1747. Outside the heart of the tree, Sally and Kuji, who had been driven out, could only wait at the entrance. Compared to what their mother was going to do to Nicholas alone, they were more concerned about whether Nicholas's treatment plan was effective on their mother. When a strong vitality gushed out from the heart of the tree, the entire Black Forest was reactivated and the trees grew wildly. The two sisters were so excited that their tentacles intertwined and hugged each other. They were eager to go to the heart of the tree to see their mother's current condition, but they hadn't received permission to enter. As time passed, they couldn't wait any longer. Sally asked with an anxious expression, "What are Mom and Nicholas doing inside? Why haven't they come out yet?" Kuji spoke from a rather professional point of view. They should be doing a physical examination after the operation. After all, Mom's body is so big that a one-time treatment is far from enough. The treatment effect, area, side effects, and so on must be verified. Let's wait. In the bathtub in the heart of the tree, the Goat Mother's black arms were placed on Han Dong's shoulders from behind, and the tentacles at the tip of her fingers drew circles around the black vortex on her abdomen. By the way, last time I joked that if the treatment plan you proposed was really effective on me, I would move to your manor. Is the manor ready? Do you have enough space to accommodate me? Her words made Han Dong's heart tighten. This matter looked good on the surface, but in fact, it required a lot of pressure. Not to mention how to use the mythical title deed to accommodate the old king. The Supreme Goat Mother was only confirmed to be repaired, but it was still far from being completely recovered. If he moved directly to the manor, the daily burden would be a problem, and he had to ensure that there was enough essence of the Black Forest to nourish it. With Han Dong's current materials and financial resources, he might be completely emptied in a short time, and the experimental funds would have to be added together. The manor situation has changed slightly. Because of the senior walker's gift, the mobile title deed, mythical, has been completely integrated into my brain. I'm afraid it will be difficult to let you live in my brain. Puffed. Hearing this, the goat mother couldn't help but laugh out loud. You really took it seriously. It's still difficult for you to support me now. However, when I recover to a certain extent, I can arrange a true incarnation like this to go to the manor where you are. In addition, I will open an exclusive passage to the Black Forest for you. When you get close to Planet Addis, you can directly reach the heart of the tree area. Han Dong was a little embarrassed. In fact, he had thought about letting Goat Mother move in, but he didn't want to bear too much burden. Goat Mother's suggestion of using her avatar to move in was a very good suggestion. Although the feeling of soaking in the bathtub was very comfortable, and he could even converse with a superior existence face to face. However, at the thought of Grimm going to the holy city alone, Han Dong was somewhat worried. Then I'll hurry to the Black Tower to settle some matters. I'll settle the supply channel for the modeling fluid as soon as possible and deliver it to you as soon as possible. I won't disturb your rest here. Although Mother Sheep wanted to keep Han Dong, she was also in dire need of the modeling fluid. Yes, let me send you out. That bottle of liquid was enough for me to do some surface activities. Besides, we've been in the heart of the tree for a long time, and the situation outside has become a little complicated. I need to go there personally. When Mother Sheep's humanoid mimicry stepped out of the bathtub, a slippery black root wrapped around her key parts as a cover. At the same time, she reached out and let Han Dong out of the bathtub. Completely ignoring the difference in status and level, she led Han Dong out of the heart of the tree. Outside the entrance, except for Sally and Koji, there were still tens of thousands of black mountain goats that were rushing over from all over the world. They came in all shapes and sizes, and all of them were at least atavistic bodies. Some of them had even reached the terrifying lower regent level, including Aunt Ingrid, who had assisted Sally in a London game. They were either the overlords of a region, or a terrifying existence in a certain area that made people tremble in fear upon hearing its name, or a seductive top beauty in a neutral city. At present, they were all gathered here, kneeling in front of Mother in a state of excitement and piety. The black goat with the highest seniority as a representative asked, "Mother, has your body taken a turn for the better? Have you really found a way to repair your body?" Mother Sheep didn't hide it. She directly hugged Han Dong, who was behind her, into her arms. Yes, Nicholas found a special substance in the Black Tower that can repair the body for me. The trial repair just now has worked. In the future, Nicholas will continue to obtain this substance. If he needs any help, you have to help him. Try to meet his requirements on any level as much as possible. Yes. As soon as she said this, hundreds of black goats stared at Han Dong. His stare made her shudder, and she felt that something was not quite right. You don't have to gather here. Hurry back to your respective areas and do what you need to do. When I fully recover, I hope to see the whole universe become the stronghold of my lovely daughters. Yes, Mother. As long as they confirmed the fact that their mother was recovering, the sheep were all relieved and left one after another. Han Dong didn't intend to stay for long. Just as he was about to turn around and say goodbye, a pair of soft lips gently pressed against his forehead, kissing the spot between his eyebrows where the magic eye was hidden. Bursts of special vitality flowed in it. I have to thank you for this, because I haven't recovered yet. I can only give you the gift of the spiritual level. I can smell the Book of the Dead on you. This trace of vitality can help you construct a new eye. Thank you, Mother Goat. Well, it feels weird to call me that. I give you the privilege to call me by my real name, Shabu. Or like them, you can call me Mother. It's also good to be my godson. Han Dong still felt that it was not good to call her by her name. His seniority was too low. He said goodbye with an awkward expression. Okay, Mother, then we'll go first. Go. On the way to Earth, Han Dong thought that Sally would complain or be unhappy about the intimacy between him and the goat mother, but she didn't. Who knew? Sally actually took the initiative to ask to sit on the back of Blood Dog with Han Dong. Being able to be ridden by the fourth origin, Count was still very proud. She leaned on Han Dong's back the whole time, and the tears that had been accumulated for a long time poured out. If Mother can't recover, I really don't know what to do. Although Mother told me about the inheritance and the management of the Black Forest, I wasn't prepared at all. This time when the seal was lifted, Mother's condition became extremely bad. I thought she wouldn't be able to hold on. It's great now. Thank you, Nicholas. Okay. Han Dong didn't say much and just patted Sally's head gently. At this time, Blood Dog had stepped into the teleportation circle outside the Black Forest and reached Earth. Chapter 1748. Holy City, Nutna. Due to the restriction of the king-level title deed, Han Dong could not directly teleport into the city. A burst of starlight appeared at the city gate. He and Sally stepped out at the same time. With his current mythical strength, as long as there was no space restriction, Han Dong could easily perform a 100-kilometer space jump. I spent 30 hours in the Black Forest. I hope Grimm didn't cause any trouble. When Han Dong revealed his elite knight identity and entered the city, a night watcher appeared from the shadows. Knight Nicholas, please come with me. There is an urgent matter that requires your attention. All right. Han Dong knew it was something related to Grimm without the need to explain. However, from the surface of the holy city, the situation seemed to be fine. There were no signs of madness in the city. Please get on the carriage. The night watcher whistled and summoned a black carriage that was emitting a shadow aura. The carriage is not bad, but it will still be a little slow. Why don't you tell me where it is? I'll go there directly. Mishu College. All right. Han Dong touched his forehead with 2 fingers, and a bird's-eye view of the holy city appeared in his mind. He accurately located the Mishu College on the 2nd floor and stepped into the void with Sally. Whoosh! They disappeared at the city gate. The night watcher who was responsible for delivering the message was shocked. He muttered softly, "What is this?" Not even a ripple of space was produced. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have been able to capture such a spatial teleportation. This is too ridiculous. Also, Knight Nicholas seems to have reached the mythical level. Report to Captain Coden. Mishu College. This college was established in the Holy City. Captain Hugo of the Secret Word Knights, who applied for permission from the Mishu College headquarters. He was the principal of this college. Any human born in the Holy City, who was born in the Holy City, who had a natural affinity with the hybrid demons could go to the college to undergo the relevant assessment. As long as they were accepted, they would not need to undergo the extremely risky destiny test and would directly go to the college to study. They would develop along the hybrid demon's path and grow into a hybrid knight. Due to the cooperation between humans and hybrid demons during the Great Expedition, this identity would not be rejected. Instead, it was a popular choice for adventurer teams. Han Dong arrived at the school gate. He flashed his identity as an associate professor at Mi University and stepped into the campus under the admiring gazes of the students. Although the scale of the interior was not as big as the school, the environment and architectural style were basically a perfect replica. The teachers who were teaching here were all hybrid demons in the true sense. They were at least at the level of atavism, and there were even many mythical bodies. Some of them were old friends of Captain Hugo. Some of them were mantis demons that the Secret Words Knights had recruited during their investigations outside the city. Some of them were even foreign teachers specially sent by Mishu University. Currently, due to the special incident that happened in the fog field, the whole school was in a state of lockdown. Regardless of whether they were in class or in the dormitory, they were all restricted to the teaching building. Waves of powerful shock waves spread out from the fog zone. One of the auras had even reached the level of a king. When Han Dong approached this area, 2 extremely frightening phantoms could be faintly seen in the fog. Firstly, the human-shaped shadow was full of holes, and there were all kinds of holes all around its body. Even the fog would be sucked in when it got close. At the same time, behind the shadow was a huge abyssal beast. Its head was in the shape of a groove, as if it could easily devour everything. The shadow corresponded to Grimm. However, according to the battle situation that Han Dong could capture, as well as the aura that Grimm was emitting, he was actually at a disadvantage. Secondly, 100 meters away, a colossus that was 100 feet tall was reflected in the fog. And at the top of the colossus stood a mysterious human, looking down at Grimm below. What kind of exquisite domain is this? In the perspective of the magic eye, a rather strange king-level domain was released by the colossus. A standard cube structure spread out in all directions, and the space covered by the domain was turned into a small cube structure of 3 by 3 by 3 millimeters. This kind of domain did not have a direct impact on Grimm, but carried out a precise modification and law transformation on the space. Every cuboid space that was divided showed different patterns. They were rotating randomly at different speeds or switching positions with each other like puzzle pieces. The effect it brought was quite outrageous. Any attack by the Colossus, regardless of whether it hit or not, will be transmitted to Grimm through these divided cubes under the effect of the domain. The attack effect and range of effect would also change according to the domain's secret text. It was just a casual punch. It might poke a small hole in Grimm's head, or it might directly crush him into meat paste. At the same time, under the influence of such a domain, Grimm's abyssal transfer using the hole would be captured. However, boom, the Colossus waved its arm again, and just as Grimm was crushed into meat paste, a dense number of small holes appeared at the contact point of the fist. Buzz! In an instant, the small holes expanded, peeling off and swallowing the entire arm. Using the gap, Grimm, who quickly hatched from the abyss, with his skin still in the state of a baby, held a long sword and went straight to the top of the Colossus. Buzz! A kind of abyssal domain beyond the mythical level spread around Grimm, disrupting the effect of the Colossus's domain. Grimm was about to catch the target. The Colossus, controlled by the mysterious person, turned into a block structure in a short period of time, converging toward the person's arm, building a mechanical arm armor beyond the legendary level. At this moment, the Regent domain was also retracted, distributed in lines on the surface of the arm armor for amplification and control. Bam! Grimm's body was directly smashed into meat paste. Mislau also let out a scream. After spinning hundreds of times in the air, it was inserted right next to Han Dong, who was watching the battle a few hundred meters away. After completing this attack, the arm armor disintegrated again, turning back into the original Colossus structure. The swallowed arm was repaired. With a wave of his hand, the thick fog that pervaded the surroundings dispersed, revealing the appearance of Captain Hugo. At the same time, another body of Grimm also climbed out from Han Dong's body, grabbing Miss Lyle, showing a manic, crazy, and bloodthirsty expression, wanting to attack again. Bam! At this time, Han Dong's palm fell on Grimm's shoulder. At the same time, his lips were close to the side of Grimm's ear. A burst of crazy laughter penetrated Grimm's head. Grimm, there will be more fun later. There's no need to ruin your body here. You and Captain Hugo have already fought for a whole day and night. You should have had enough fun. Going to the Black Tower with injuries is not a good thing. After all, you also want to achieve good results in the Fight Club. The crazy laughter could very well neutralize Grimm's manic state. At the same time, when the madness was neutralized, Grimm also felt that what Han Dong said was very reasonable. A whole day and night of fighting had already satisfied Grimm. Seeing that Grimm had stopped, Han Dong hurriedly activated the Void secret technique, continuing to whisper in Grimm's ear. Let's go. Han Dong did not dare to stay here and reminisce with Captain Hugo. Any delay could cause Grimm's temperament to change, uncontrollable. When the two left, Captain Hugo immediately withdrew the Colossus into his body. He reached out to wipe the sweat on his forehead, at the same time using a special potion to provide treatment for his right arm. As expected of the first origin substance, it can actually force me to this point. If this continues, it will be really troublesome. This time, it's all thanks to Nicholas, that kid who came in time. Chapter 1749. Han Dong, who was sent away by the Mishu branch, brought Grimm and Sally to the third level of the Holy Citadel the bell tower. Grimm seemed to be still immersed in the battle just now. He licked his lips and muttered, "The core professors of the Mishu University are really powerful. This guy called Hugo is even stronger than some of the lower kings that were born in the abyss. This is the first time I've seen such a unique attack pattern. In just a few minutes of battle, he was able to completely adapt and grasp my movements. He actually killed 41 of my abyss bodies in a day." "Nicholas, is there a recovery place in the Black Tower?" Obviously, Grimm had suffered a serious injury during the battle with Hugo. Otherwise, according to his personality, he would not have taken the initiative to say such things. "Of course there is. There are even healing facilities that you've never experienced before that you're very interested in. Let's hurry up." When the three of them stepped out of the void, coincidentally, they met a group of young humans waiting in front of the bell tower. Obviously, they were the trainee knights that were preparing to enter the Destiny realm. He was different from Han Dong in the past. In addition to the regular individuals of the Knight Academy, there were also some hybrid demon knights mixed in with them. They could even clearly see the tentacles and multi-eyed structures on their bodies. Han Dong couldn't help but sigh when he saw this. Naturally, he put himself in the shoes of these hybrid demon knights and recalled the time when he was adventuring in Destiny. Although every time he traveled in Destiny, he had to bear great risks, but the experience of growing up with his friends was still very interesting. It was also these adventures that laid the foundation for Han Dong's current position. In contrast, when the trainee knights were faced with the sudden appearance of these three mysterious existences, they immediately retreated out of instinct. Some of the hybrid demon knights knelt on the ground. The characteristics on their bodies were withdrawn, or they were trembling in fear. Whether it was the young man with holes all over his body or the woman with goat hooves, they were all emitting a terrifying aura that they could not evaluate at all, and they also carried a sense of suppression that originated from the hybrid demon's origin. Han Dong said with a smile on his face, "Don't worry about us. Prepare to step into Destiny." His words were directly rooted in the trainee knights' minds like a virus, excluding their fear of Grimm and Sally. At the same time, it would help them recover their mental strength so that they could participate in fate in their best condition. Could this be the first hybrid demon knight, Warren Nicholas? He's so strong, I can't even tell what level he is. It seems like the pressure he gives off is many times stronger than an elite knight. He's the central figure of the Great Expedition. He can change the overall direction of the war just by opening the door. The sounds of discussion continued. At this moment, the sound of gears turning could be heard. The clockmaker had already opened the door of the clock tower, and a mechanical voice that went straight to the skull asked the apprentice knights to enter. Han Dong was not in a hurry. He waited quietly outside and waved at the timekeeper. When the other party had finished their work, he would bring Sally and Glenn to the clock tower. The design here is not bad. Grimm touched the gear structure inside the clock tower. Through the gaps and holes, he could feel the complexity of the overall structure. It even contained the deep design of space and time. They took the elevator to the timekeeper's office. If they wanted to bring Grimm and Sally to the Black Tower, they could only depart from here. After all, although the timekeeper was punished and trapped here, she was the Black Tower spy who monitored World S-01. But as the person in charge of the Gate of Destiny, Holy City, she was still qualified to send messages to the Black Tower. The situation is as such. I'll trouble the clock creator to give this letter to the staff of the Black Tower. The letter that was handed out by Han Dong was not an ordinary letter. It was stamped with Mr. M's unique wax seal, and the material of the envelope was quite special. Only the higher-ups of the Black Tower were qualified to use such an envelope. That's right. The origin of the envelope was the letter that Mr. M asked Han Dong to pass to the Goat Mother. Han Dong deliberately kept it. When the timekeeper looked at the M stamp on the surface of the envelope, her brain was spinning rapidly. Her eyes revealed a look of disbelief. Okay. The timekeeper went to the Gate of Destiny in less than 10 minutes. She returned with 2 temporary identity cards and a whirlpool mask. The application was approved very quickly. However, the Black Tower has a request. When your two friends use the temporary identity cards to go to the Black Tower, they must wear a mask in the public area. Otherwise, they will be regarded as intruders and be eliminated. Okay, Han Dong could understand the reason for the mask. At present, the cooperation between the Black Tower and S-01 had not yet reached an agreement. If the hybrid demons were allowed to go there, it would inevitably cause a panic, and it might even cause a serious pollution spread. This kind of whirlpool mask was very good at absorbing and suppressing the hybrid demon's aura. At the same time, it would also contain the pollution. Grim, please bear with it for a while. Grim held the mask and nodded. It must be to go to someone else's nest. Okay. The whirlpool mask automatically attached to their faces. The whirlpool rotated slightly and immediately absorbed the hybrid demon's aura. Grim and Sally, who maintained their human forms, looked like two ordinary people. Before stepping into the Gate of Destiny, Han Dong also looked back at the timekeeper and said softly, "Regarding your punishment and the restoration of your identity, I will try my best wait for my news." "Thank you, Buzz." The moment Han Dong landed on the square at the bottom of the Black Tower. Beep, beep, beep. All kinds of messages came flooding in like a phone that had been turned off for a month. There were messages from all kinds of worlds under Han Dong's command. The world of Prometheus, which was controlled by the legendary Migo Morgan, was undergoing great changes. Draytown was being upgraded to a sub-superworld. The world of the Matrix, which was managed by Goldie, was also being transformed. There was also a message from the Handsome Jack, which reached 99+, all related to the pyrolite mine business. At the same time, there was also a warning from the Black Tower's headquarters. As a guardian, Han Dong was required to control the hybrid demons that he brought with him. If there was any threat, Han Dong would have to take responsibility. This is the Black Tower. This is too exciting. So many strong people, and many of them have attributes that I have never seen before. The square was crowded with travelers from all kinds of worlds. There is no lack of mythical bodies and even king-level existences. Grim, who saw this scene for the first time, was extremely excited. A large number of tentacles were circling around the mask. Han Dong paid attention to the last message he received and made a decision. "Grim, let's restore your physical condition first before we go to the Fight Club. Come with me." Han Dong led the two of them and took the ground floor elevator to the middle area of the Black Tower. Night rain, neon lights, and steel jungle-like buildings. Higgin Hotel. After checking their registered identities, they took the only boat to the hotel. Creak, when the door of the suite was pushed open, a familiar man in a white suit was standing by the bed. Waves of invisible pressure made the pores on Grim's body shrink together. When he looked at this person, it was as if he was facing the combination of countless worlds. The first prime, Christopher J. Grimm. The fourth prime, Sally Lovehoof. What a good young individual. You are no longer restrained when you step into the room and can take off your mask. Chapter 1750. An hour had passed. Inside the premium suite of the Prometheus Hotel, Grim was soaking in a milky white diluted modeling fluid. An unprecedented feeling swept through his body. Due to Grim's special physique, it complemented the modeling fluid perfectly. The feeling it brought was even more satisfying than the Abyss Party. The reason was simple. The modeling fluid directly acted on Grim's Abyss essence. It repaired, reinforced, and even filled and nurtured the structure of the Abyss in his body. Coincidentally, Grim was injured in the battle with Hugo. The healing effect during the soaking period was so comfortable that Han Dong fell asleep immediately. The small holes all over his body made a strange snoring sound. In the suite's lobby, Han Dong and Sally sat on one side, while Mr. M sat on the other. When Sally met him, she had guessed that this person was directly related to her mother's repair problem. After seeing him inject the fluid into Grim, she was completely sure. It's faster and better than I expected. Currently, the situation of the containment tower has not deteriorated to the point of complete deterioration. You still have a chance to go there and understand the specific situation. Okay, Han Dong's main purpose in coming to the Black Tower this time was to go to the containment tower and learn more about the Rampagers. Mr. M continued, "Since you've brought two powerful friends here, why don't you go in and take a look together? Traveling together can greatly reduce the danger of visiting." Han Dong vaguely heard a different meaning in this sentence. It seemed that Mr. M had deliberately let Grimm and Sally participate in the understanding of the containment tower. But thinking about it carefully, this was also necessary. Once Grimm or Sally could verify the danger with their own eyes, with their identity as primes, the dangerous information would be conveyed back, and the subsequent cooperation process between the Black Tower and S-01 would be smoother. Sally has been following me since the beginning. As for Grimm, I wanted to bring him to the fight club to have some fun. But for such an extremely dangerous and interesting thing, he would definitely agree. It just so happens that before I go to the containment tower, I still have to do a series of preparations. During this time, I can let Grimm have some fun at the club. Indeed, it is necessary to prepare well. You should have just broken through to the mythical level. When you are ready, just come to the Permitha Hotel and mention my name. By the way, Senior, there's one more thing. The Supreme Sheep Mother has already agreed to your request. Han Dong immediately handed over the letter with this printed on it. Sally, who was sitting to the side, was also shocked when she heard this, and she sat up straight. Okay, I will continue to provide the supply of modeling fluid. It would be best if you could accurately calculate the required amount. After all, it would be troublesome to establish a direct supply channel to S-01. Once the other higher-ups find out about this, it will be very difficult for me. Han Dong hurriedly replied, "I've already observed it. The previous trial equipment is about 1% repaired. 100 times more should be just enough." Yes, although the modeling fluid comes from my body, I can't produce it in large quantities. When you're done with the tour of the storage tower, I'll give you a sufficient amount of modeling fluid. Thank you, Senior. As soon as he finished speaking, Mr. M's white leather shoes gently stepped on the ground. A domain beyond Han Dong's understanding unfolded beneath his feet, enveloping the suite in front of him. Regardless of whether it was the various furniture decorations in the room, or Sally, who was next to him, or Grimm, who was soaking in the bathtub, all turned into white sculptures. Only Han Dong and Mr. M, who were colored individuals, were allowed to move freely. Everyone else was quarantined. Next, let's talk about some personal matters. According to your understanding, Nicholas, what is the current attitude of World S-01 towards this matter? I've already spread the news among some important neutral organizations or powerhouses. Everyone still takes it seriously, but we still need more reliable information, which is the purpose of my trip to the Black Tower this time. Well done. However, you must be careful during this tour. Although the overall of the storage tower is still within our control, some of the internal areas have already gone out of control. The supply of materials and personnel is obviously unable to keep up. If you advance to mythical later, you may not have the chance to visit. So the sooner you prepare, the better. Try to compress it as much as possible within a week. Every day you delay, the situation of the storage tower will become worse. Okay, I'll speed up. In addition, after you finish your tour, I'm going to take you to the Supreme Will. As my only successor and the intermediary to connect to S-01, meeting with those guys, I hope you're ready. This is still very important. Okay, lastly, I'll remind you of a few things. I've checked several worlds under your name. Although you only hold 10% to 30% of the shares, these worlds maintain a deep connection with you. Among them, the world of Draytown is quite special. Make good use of it. Once a large-scale world goes out of control, the power of these special worlds cannot be ignored. Got it. That's it. Hurry up and do your thing. After you're done, come to the hotel directly to see me. When the domain was withdrawn, Mr. M also left together. He gave Han Dong a one-day stay in the hotel. Time is really tight. I almost missed the opportunity to tour. I really don't know what the storage tower where the rampagers are imprisoned is like. I have to hurry up and complete the cultivation of the true devil eye. As soon as he thought of Mr. M's wording and the fact that he was about to explore a new and unknown territory, Han Dong could not suppress the crazy emotions in his body. Mythical level, crazy laughter overflowed from his mouth. When the laughter echoed in the suite, Grim, who was sleeping, also revealed a crazy smile. After a day and night of soaking, Grim reached an unprecedented state, even better than when he was in the center of chaos. It greatly increased Grim's curiosity about Mr. M and the Black Tower as a whole. In front of the Fight Club, as soon as Han Dong entered, he was greeted with all kinds of enthusiastic greetings. Soon, a headless with a big belly and floating hair without a head on its neck stepped out from the passage. The overflowing resentment of the whole body became stronger than before. As soon as they met, it was a meatball attack to express the joy of not seeing each other for a long time. Brother Nicholas, it's been a long time. I was wondering where you've been all this time. So you've been creating myths. You're too fast. Now you might be able to do something for me. But it seems that you have other things to do. You must have other things to do at the club, right? Yes, my friend wants to join the Fight Club. I don't know if it's possible. Friend? Why is he wearing the Black Tower's restriction mask? Because they are hybrid demons. As soon as this was said, whether it was the headless or the other members passing by, they all stopped in their tracks. However, their expressions were not dignified, but slowly expressed a kind of novelty and excitement. Oh, hybrid demons. No wonder they wear masks. This is not a public area. Just take off the mask. Our group is quite welcoming of the arrival of a new species. The president will be very happy too. Hurry up and have a qualification test. Since it's someone introduced by you, Nicholas, there's a high probability that he can pass the qualification test. Grim's state was a little strange. Perhaps he felt that the club was special, or he had some kind of crazy idea. He still kept the mask on and was silent all the way, just followed to the assessment area. The rules to join the Fight Club were very simple. You only needed to have a pure fight with a member, regardless of the outcome. As long as you expressed enough purity and madness, you would be qualified. Hearing that there was a hybrid demon from S01 who wanted to join the club, the assessment area was surrounded by 3 full circles of members. Hybrid demon? Let me try. A mirror man, Pietrus, with a body full of glass shards, each piece of glass reflecting a different expression, walked out from the crowd. Grim still did not take off the mask, standing still in the same place. Han Dong and Sally were also squeezed in the crowd. Their expressions were somewhat anxious. If it was a normal duel, Han Dong would definitely not be worried. But this was the Fight Club. All abilities needed to be put aside, and the most primitive desire to fight with the body. Due to Grim's lack of experience, he also could not use the Abyss reincarnation. The probability of losing the first match was very high. Newcomer. The rules are very simple. No props, no abilities. Only the most pure physical combat. Until the other party completely loses the ability to move. If there are no problems, then start. Grim's voice came from under the mask. No abilities? Can't be used? That's right. Nicholas seems to have said that. Wait a moment. I'll change to a body more suitable for long-term combat. In front of the club members, Grim directly dug out his own chest. A dark body with the skin of the abyss crawled out. You may begin. 30 minutes passed. Broken glass scattered all over the ground. Each piece of glass also had torn flesh stuck to it. The Mirror Man, with the club record of 37 wins, 9 draws, and 46 losses, had been rushed to the main hospital by the medical staff for emergency treatment. The battle area was dead silent. Only the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Grim only had his right arm and left leg left standing in the same place. Almost no part of his body was intact. The lower half of the mask, together with Grim's chin, had been cut off. His tongue was sticking out, wildly licking his face. Trembling with excitement, he could not help but exclaim, Is this the Elysium? This is too good. Grim, in a state of victory, became an official member of the Fight Club. Such a result allowed Han Dong to rest assured that Grimm would stay here. He could take time to deal with some personal matters and start a week of emergency preparations. The journey to becoming a king had officially begun. Chapter 1751. Middle level of the Black Tower. An extremely large circular column that symbolized the Black Tower's highest containment technology was rooted in the center. Its height penetrated the middle level. Its construction material was a concentrated product of the world's essence, and then it was forged by the Black Tower's top furnace room. At a casual glance, it was a very ordinary black color. However, if one used an advanced ocular technique to spy on it, they would find that each black rock seemed to contain a galaxy or even a severely collapsed small universe. This column corresponded to the containment tower that Han Dong was about to visit. However, Han Dong had many questions about the meaning of the containment tower's existence. It was clearly such a dangerous containment building. Why was it built at the core of the Black Tower? Why was it built to contain the Rampagers, instead of directly eradicating them? This question needed to be traced back to the early stages of the Black Tower's establishment. As more and more worlds were associated with the Black Tower, the higher-ups of the Black Tower became more and more aware of a problem. If they wanted to maintain the stability of the world system, they had to strictly supervise each world and timely eliminate unstable individuals, especially abnormal individuals whose numerical values were abnormal and completely went against the world. Their existence would only bring obstruction and destruction to the world itself, even if they did not have the intention to go against the world. Such existences were collectively known as frowny face rampager. When this concept was proposed, the higher-ups of the Black Tower also had serious differences of opinion. Some of them held a pearish attitude toward the Rampagers. They believed that the appearance of the Rampagers was a wrong parameter generated during the operation of the world, and it was meaningless in itself. Another part believed that since the Rampagers existed, they had their own meaning. Moreover, the Rampagers often had extremely strong special abilities that even surpassed the special abilities of the world they were born in. If one put aside the state of being out of control, they were all top talents. If the Rampagers could be restrained in an effective way, systematic containment, management, research, and even transformation could be carried out. Perhaps the reason for their loss of control could be understood from them, and one day, the phenomenon of loss of control could be eliminated from the root. At the same time, they could also obtain a powerful force from the Rampagers themselves. It could effectively improve the comprehensive strength of the Black Tower and stabilize the position of the Black Tower in charge. They could even transform some of the Rampagers into controllable and stable individuals for the Black Tower's use. In the end, during the meeting of the Supreme Will, Mr. Maid gave the detailed design concept of containment and containment centers for the uncontrollable ones to be reviewed by every holder of the primordial alphabet. In the end, no one was able to find any loopholes in the design, and it was once called the most perfect and greatest design. If the shelter could be built according to the design plan, the Rampagers could be controlled perfectly and their value could be maximized. Of course, the highest will had also given a restriction condition. If a moderate level of abnormality occurs in the containment area during its use, the research value will be disregarded and the internal containment area will be completely purged. If the research progress and harvest of the shelter could not achieve the expected results, the shelter would also be completely purged and the shelter would be demolished. After all, the shelter's daily energy supply, maintenance, and various personnel expenses were very high. The Black Tower's initial funds were also quite limited. The initial shelter was built outside the Black Tower. It was similar to the hospital that the Fight Club built outside the Black Tower. The Black Tower had an exclusive passageway that was connected to the external shelter. It was officially operational. It had been less than 5 years since the shelter had officially operated. Through the effective containment and comprehensive research of the Rampagers, not only did the Black Tower obtain more knowledge related to the essence of the world, but it also improved the overall level of science and technology. At the same time, it could also obtain heterogeneity from the bodies of some rampagers, special substances that could not be produced in the normal world. These substances could often violate the rules and could be applied to various types of technological breakthroughs. They could even help the Black Tower break through some scientific barriers that were impossible to break through. It could be said that the contribution of the shelter was indispensable for the Black Tower to be able to develop as it was now. Because of this, the first holder of the M letter, Mr. Med, was awarded the highest honor. Even a hall of the highest will still had a sculpture of Med's head. The shelter also gradually became an indispensable and important project, and more manpower and material resources were invested in it. As time passed, the number of rampagers increased, and the shelter gradually reached its load limit. After the unanimous approval of the highest will, under the supervision of many high-level existences, the shelter built outside the Black Tower was moved and expanded. It was moved to the center of the Black Tower and directly supervised by the highest will. The containment tower became the core building of the middle area. It was completely connected to the internal system and participated in the daily operation of the Black Tower itself. The area within 5 kilometers of the containment tower was regarded as an out-of-control, forbidden zone. Any individual who did not have a pass would be treated as a rampager once they stepped into the forbidden zone. He turned his gaze back to Han Dong. Although Grimm's amazing performance during the test caused a sensation in the club, only Han Dong and Sally were not too surprised. At the same time, they were relieved to leave Grimm in the club and let him release himself here for a week. Brother Headless, my friend will stay in the club for the time being. I still have a lot of things to deal with. I feel like my head is going to explode. Wait, a fat and resentful arm fell on Han Dong's shoulder. The boss just sent a message and wants to see you. Boss, in Han Dong's knowledge, the Fight Club was an extremely high-level organization within the Black Tower. Even when Mr. M mentioned the club in the chat, his tone showed great importance. The behind-the-scenes boss must be a super strong person. Well, come with me. There are not many opportunities like this. The boss rarely meets the club members alone. Even I have only seen the boss twice. Sally, who was at the side, saw the importance of this matter and said softly, "Go. I'll wait for you here. If it takes longer, I'll also try to enter the club. After watching Grimm's fight just now, I want to try it too." Okay. Under the leadership of Headless, passing through the maze-like, complex club passageways, even Han Dong's head was a little dizzy. Finally, they came to a straight passageway without any forks. Looking at it, the passageway in front of them was more than 1,000 meters deep. A bright red door was at the end of the passageway. Go! The boss office is behind the door. Headless did not intend to continue forward. Okay. When Han Dong stepped into the passageway, buzz. The red door at the end appeared exactly 1 meter in front of him. Creak, the moment the red door was pushed open. Han Dong actually had a strange feeling of stepping into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. At the same time, there was a primitive impulse that filled his whole body. However, all of this disappeared with a smile on Han Dong's face. The interior corresponded to a super open office with a size of 1,000 times 1,000 times 3M. Except for an office chair in the middle, there was no furniture or decoration. At this time, the office chair turned. A man in a red suit and a black tie. Fat and muscles coexisted. The man with dark red skin turned around, and his demon-like eyes were staring at Han Dong. At the same time, when he saw this person, Han Dong immediately figured out one thing. He understood why the Fight Club had developed so much and was not suppressed by the highest will. Because on the boss' neck, there was a conspicuous red letter. As a member of the highest consciousness, you must know that the Black Tower is preparing to have a special cooperation with World S-01. I need to personally visit the containment tower and bring back the real situation inside. The boss patted Han Dong on the shoulder, seemingly giving up on the idea of a duel. Oh, that's not surprising. After all, you're one of the key people connected to S01. However, the containment tower was a place where freedom was restricted. Even if you got full marks in the loss of control test beforehand, you would not be able to escape. With your current strength, it will be very dangerous for you to go there. You seem to have a good relationship with Headless. He will go with you when the time comes. All right, it was a good thing to have an extra helper. Han Dong's original purpose was to explore the internal information of the containment tower as much as possible. With the addition of Headless, the visit would be much smoother. Han Dong asked, "What's the containment tower?" Didn't Mentor tell you? To visit the containment tower is the most basic standard. Only those who meet the criteria can enter. For temporary entrants like you, the criteria will be slightly lower. Those who need to conduct research, maintenance, or consumption in the containment tower must meet a very high standard. Okay, all right, your hybrid demon friend this time is very good. The club needs this kind of crazy new blood to be able to win in the assessment. This guy must be a top talent in S01, right? Green is recognized as the strongest person in the same level and also the embodiment of madness. He's really powerful, and the whole atmosphere of the club has been stirred up. Maybe the introduction of the hybrid demons will allow the club to develop better. Why don't we discuss something? If everything goes according to plan, the special cooperation between the Black Tower and S01 should be completed. At that time, the Black Tower's restrictions on the hybrid demons will slowly be lifted. As long as the hybrid demons can pass the stability test, they will be able to go to the Black Tower. At that time, I hope you, Han Dong, can help the club find some better goods. Your contributions to the club will be remembered in everyone's heart. When you need help, everyone will naturally help. Han Dong agreed decisively. That's not a problem. And I've already found a group of crazy individuals who should be suitable to join. The Fight Club's philosophy is also very suitable for the self-development of those crazy individuals. The boss showed a look of appreciation and patted Han Dong's shoulder heavily. Not bad. You seem to have just broken through the mythical level and reached the threshold to visit the containment tower. The reason why the visit will be a week later should be because you want to be prepared, right? I still have to go to a meeting to deal with some matters. I can lend you this free office for a few days. Thank you, boss. Although Han Dong did not understand the uniqueness of the room, since it was the boss's office, there must be something special about it. Although there were a lot of things on top of his head that needed to be dealt with, the most important thing now was to cultivate the Book of the Dead Spirit. Having such a spacious, quiet area with unknown effects was just right. When the boss opened the door and left, Han Dong immediately received a system notification. You have obtained a right to use the Freedom Room 7 days. When the right is taken back, you will be forcefully removed from the current area. The moment he obtained the right to use the room, Han Dong immediately understood the wonders of the room. With the movement of his palm, the movement of his fingers, and even his thoughts, the room structure could be changed. The structure of the office could be changed without any restrictions. Han Dong could even create anything he wanted, including living creatures. Is this the feeling of freedom? He cleared all the trivial matters from his mind. Han Dong turned the boss's chair into a meditation cushion and quickly entered the state. However, in front of the official cultivation demon, Han Dong still had to create a suitable environment. Images were pieced together in his mind, combining his past experiences and the scene and feeling when he sees the true copy of the eye. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in an eyeball demon's den. Densely packed human eyeballs hung in the demon's den like grapes. Opposite Han Dong sat a giant. It was somewhat similar to the primordial human corresponding to the Book of the Dead Spirit. It was replicated through Han Dong's imagination and the Freedom Room. That's the feeling. Let's begin. He took out the remnant page. He closed his eyes. He used the little demon eye between his eyebrows to read the true content of the Book of the Dead Spirit. Chapter 1753. Fight Club, outside the passageway. Headless was still guarding the place. He was also very curious about why the boss was looking for Han Dong. When Han Dong came out, he would ask him properly. Who knew? When the red door opened, the boss himself walked out from inside. This directly scared Headless to the point that his fat body trembled. He was not afraid of the boss himself, but worried that the boss would find him for a fight on a whim. He was very clear about how terrifying the boss was. Pa! The boss's hot, heavy, and free palm directly hit Headless' stomach. The crisp and loud sound of the stomach echoed throughout the club. Layers of ripples on the surface of the fat continued to expand. If Headless had a face, it would definitely be a face with blue veins popping out and red in the face. Headless, your body seems to have become a lot stronger. If I'm not busy, I really want to fight with you. Headless saw this and quickly said, Boss, go do your thing. I'm just here waiting for Han Dong to come out. This kid often does not let people feel at ease. The two of you seem to have a good relationship. This kid was brought into the club by me. No matter what, we have some relationship. Moreover, I have a little friendship with him in private. Our relationship is not bad. Since it's not bad, when this kid comes out of my office, accompany him to the containment tower. Don't let him die. If we can develop to the S01 world through this kid, our club will welcome a group of quite solid and interesting members. Containment tower? Understood. The boss continued to rub Headless' stomach and left with satisfaction. Grim was sent to the hospital and recovered in less than a day. He continued to fight. On Sally's side, also because Han Dong had not returned for a long time, she also chose to take the entrance exam. Sally's physical foundation was not bad at all. Whether it was reproduction or the speed and weight of the sheep's hooves, they were all innate physical advantages. Coupled with her crazy training in the chaos during this period, she could completely release herself in the fight and show 100% of her original potential. In the end, she completed the entrance exam with a draw. Both of the sheep's hooves were broken during the game, and the shredded body was packed in a medical bag similar to a garbage bag and sent to the club's joint hospital. Grim and Sally, the two hybrid demons from S01, also attracted a lot of attention from the club. There were even a lot of members waiting in line for the two of them to be discharged from the hospital. However, everything that happened outside had nothing to do with Han Dong. He, who was immersed in the book world, once again came to the land of origin with his consciousness. It came into contact with the first generation of humans lying in the middle of the earth, which was the giant corpse that had the size of a continent. However, it was different from when he was reading the advanced scroll. Han Dong was currently reading the main text of the eye, which corresponded to the changes that had occurred to the first generation of humans. The space between their eyebrows was in an open state, but there were no eyeballs embedded in it. As a result, the eye socket between his eyebrows formed a deep and huge inner cave with a faint, strange luster inside. When Han Dong climbed in along the wall, only then did he realize that the light came from the dense, glimmering, thin eyes. These eyeballs were staring at Han Dong, an outsider. However, they did not reject him, because there was a similar eye between Han Dong's eyebrows. These are, when Han Dong fell to the bottom of the eye socket cave. Looking around at the dense, small eyes on the wall of the cave, from the different frequencies of their opening and closing eyes, he could see the secret text hidden in the book, which was the real content of the eye remnant page. The reason why Han Dong could successfully see it was because of one part. Part of it was due to Han Dong's perfect mastery of the book. With his learning ability, it was easy for him to enter the land of origin. Moreover, not only did Han Dong have a unique understanding of the eye technique, but he had also come into contact with the eye copy of the Book of Necromancy a long time ago. Perhaps it was very different from the real book, but with Han Dong's cultivation and the fusion of the eyeballs, the little magic I had grown to a level comparable to many high-level eye techniques. It could be said that the eye study of the Book of Necromancy was the easiest for Han Dong, even easier than the pre-volume. The small eyes on the wall of the cave were changing regularly with the little magic eye between Han Dong's eyebrows, showing him the concept of the true magic eye. They were also sowing seeds in the little magic eye through looking at each other. There was no need to reconstruct a true magic eye. Instead, it was supplemented, nurtured, and sublimated on the basis of the little magic eye. During this process, Han Dong seemed to have peeped into a completely different world S01, a super world with humans as the main body. Every human here was born with a third eye. They could see through the essence of things through this eye, helping them quickly understand the structure of the world. While science and technology developed rapidly, they could also comprehend the mysterious laws of the world's rules and establish a powerful growth system. An unknown amount of time passed. The tiny eyeballs on the wall of the cave had all closed. Han Dong had already closed his eyes and sat quietly in place. Rumble. Suddenly, the ground under Han Dong began to slowly move up, carrying Han Dong out of the eye socket cave. When the edge of the ground was level with the eye socket, the center was slightly protruding. The surface rock layer peeled off piece by piece. A watery, newborn eye appeared between the eyebrows of the first-generation human, and Han Dong was sitting cross-legged in the center of the pupil. Buzz. There seemed to be some kind of resonance between Han Dong's closed eyebrows. The seed of the true magic eye had been sowed, and it only needed a period of incubation to fully open. Fight Club. Freedom Room. This place had already returned to the appearance of an empty office. When Han Dong woke up, only two normal eyes were open. There was a vortex-shaped mark between his eyebrows, and it was slowly rotating. It meant that the magic eye was being nurtured, and it also meant that the characteristics of the vortex eye had not disappeared. Perhaps the final product would be a true magic eye that was closer to Han Dong's own attribute. It seems that my cultivation of the little magic eye has not been in vain. Meditating is like experiencing an exotic trip. It's just that I don't know how long it will take to nurture. Since the office hasn't kicked me out yet, it means that there is no time. Before his voice died away, Buzz. Han Dong was directly pulled out of the office by a repulsive force and fell outside the passage that was a kilometer away from the red door. A week's time had just passed. Considering the urgency of time, Han Dong immediately sped up and ran. However, Han Dong didn't completely know the way in the depths of the club, which was comparable to a high-level maze. But the current running seemed to have a clear purpose. At every fork, he could choose the right path and run to the exit of the club in the shortest distance. It was as if the true magic eye had completed the structural perspective of the club during the incubation period. When Han Dong ran all the way to the noisy fighting area, he directly bumped into a soft belly. A heavy voice came from the belly. "You finally came out." Chapter 1754. The boss asked me to accompany you to the containment tower. Are we leaving now? Yes. My two friends. Well, the goat girl, named Sally, is healing in the hospital. According to her special physique and hospitalization time, she should be discharged soon. As for the other extremely crazy young man, he is doing the 18 challenge. That is, he has to persist in 18 fights without going to the hospital or using any abilities. It is now the 7th round. Unless the challenger completely loses his mobility, the game cannot be interrupted. Green is playing too crazy here. Has he forgotten about the containment tower? But it's fine. I didn't plan to take him there. I'll explain to Mr. M later. His personality may cause a lot of trouble during the visit. Because the 1-week time limit given by Mr. M was up, Han Dong had to postpone all kinds of trivial matters, including the changes in several worlds related to Han Dong, as well as the experience of his 3 subordinates, Togu, Chun-Li, and Nico. Count could only stay by his side temporarily and wait until the end of the visit before sending him to the corresponding super world of Dawn of Terror. At the entrance of Bine Hotel, before Han Dong stepped on the wooden boat to the hotel, Mr. M in a white suit was sailing to the entrance by boat. He must have met here in advance because of the urgency of time. "Senior, my friend Green is playing too much in the club. He may not be able to come. It doesn't matter, as long as any hybrid demon follows you. This black goat should have enough influence on your side." With that, Mr. M glanced at the headless creature that exuded strong resentment. I didn't expect Francis to arrange a general to follow you. Well, this can greatly reduce the risk of the visit, and I can take you there without worry. The state of the containment tower is getting worse day by day. I have received a draft document of Red Seal. The highest will is planning to implement a higher level of closure management of the containment tower, adding seals while rejecting all visitors. Before the document is issued, I have to send you in quickly. Okay. The middle layer between neon lights and torrential rain was similar to a cyberpunk-style future city. 70% of the Black Tower's organizations were concentrated in the middle layer. Aside from dangerous buildings like the containment tower, the Black Tower also had various administrative offices and world management departments. The route of any individual operating in the middle layer would be uploaded in real time, and any suspicious points would be immediately reported to the military. As a result, there were practically no idle personnel in the middle layer. Most of the residents here were low-level employees of various organizations, also known as transporters. Their spines had been modified into a box structure, and they were responsible for the transfer of various world resources and special files. Other than that, others were individuals like Han Dong, who had received permission from the upper echelons to travel to the middle layer for temporary activities. Or, after passing the application, under the guidance of the guide, they could quickly handle their own affairs. In the torrential rain, a long-box sedan with the word M plated on the door was speeding in the rain. The closer he got to the center, the greater the pressure he felt. When Han Dong saw the tower through the window, he also saw the galaxy veins flowing among the black materials. The truth demonic sword in Han Dong's body also reacted and tried to reject the tower. The reason was simple. The scabbard used by the Black Tower to seal the demonic sword was made of this material. I'm afraid the value of this containment tower is one of the best in the Black Tower. It's actually all built with this material. Mr. M responded simply. When my teacher first built the shelter, he couldn't find so many universe dark crystals. Moreover, the Black Tower's technology at that time couldn't obtain such high-purity crystals. The reason why universe dark crystals can be produced in large quantities and with high purity in the future, it completely relies on the characteristics of a certain rampager, using his body as a medium and injecting the world's essence into it. The corresponding crystals can be produced. When the production is enough, the highest will also made a decision to transfer the shelter outside the Black Tower to here, and use the crystals to fully rebuild and expand. It's not just universe dark crystals. Many of the top technologies and cutting-edge facilities in the Black Tower come from the Rampager. This is also why the containment tower is so important. This explanation made Han Dong a little uncomfortable. Because of his special experience in Pandora, Han Dong could also produce a unique pie, or if he was not strong enough and was controlled by Handsome Jack at that time, he would probably be imprisoned and reduced to a production machine. Death would become untouchable. At this moment, the car stopped at the entrance of a block, and further ahead was the forbidden area. The area 5 kilometers away from the containment tower and its surroundings were blocked. Only individuals with permission could go there. Otherwise, they would be treated as rampagers. Forbidden. The huge word forbidden formed by the holographic projection blocked the street entrance. A group of managers wearing forbidden masks, pure black whirlpool masks, and covered in barrel-shaped black robes surrounded the car and bowed to Mr. M to show their respect. And in front of each car door, there was a person holding an umbrella waiting. Mr. M, how can I help you? Complete the Rampager test for the 3 of them as soon as possible and let them have a comprehensive tour of the containment tower. If this was in the past, it would have been easy to do, just follow the procedure, but now the situation was a bit special. This is difficult. The higher-ups have issued notice 3 months ago that the comprehensive tour has been canceled. At present, outsiders can only have the most basic superficial tour. And, even if it's a superficial tour, in addition to the Rampager test, personal information needs to be submitted to Mr. C for his personal review. You just take them to the test. I will personally negotiate with C about the rest. Yes, please come with me. During the Rampager test, you need to remove all your equipment and change into a special containment suit. During the test, if there is a serious Rampager, your current identity and power will be forcibly deprived, and you'll be treated as Rampagers. If you are ready, come with me. In a building that also uses the universe dark crystal as the main material. Han Dong and others change into tight-fitting clothes that fit their bodies, like countless small cold scales directly attached to their skin. Every part of the individual's body and every second of parameter changes will be detected by the clothes. 3 pitch-black single rooms appeared in front of them. The test process was very simple. They just needed to go to one of the single rooms alone and stay for a while. Chapter 1755. An existence at Mr. M's level naturally didn't need to undergo a loss of control test. When Han Dong and the others were taken for the test, he didn't step into the restricted area. He went straight to the secret entrance on the side of the containment tower, a special entrance that even most employees didn't know about and couldn't see. Taking the exclusive elevator here, he quickly ascended along the outer wall of the containment tower. Until he came to the middle area of the containment tower, there was a special monitoring room inlaid here. All the facilities inside could only be used by one person. It was also called the General Supervision Room. When Mr. M used the modeling fluid to simulate the key to open the secret door, a silver-haired man floating in the air was monitoring the state of the containment tower from the inside. The ring-shaped collar covered the mouth and nose, only revealing a pair of special eyes with the X symbol. The straight cylindrical white coat covered with cosmic patterns. Every finger was covered with a metal ring, giving people a strong sense of control. According to the numerical feedback on the monitoring instrument, everything inside the containment tower was normal and in a green state of absolute safety. But the silver-haired man's expression was quite ugly. This person was the existence given the original letter C, an important member of the Supreme Will, and also the highest manager of the containment tower. Charles Olmedo, known as Control. Charles, you're still here. You still can't find the infiltration point. The higher-ups have drawn up a red document to completely block the containment tower. You'd better go back and have a good rest. If there's really a loss of control, you'll need to lead the suppression work. It's not worth wasting time and energy here. Minter, then why are you wasting time here? I'm not wasting time. Remember what I talked to you privately at the end of the last meeting? The only heir I trained has reached the mythical stage, and he's also an important middleman connected to S01. I want to arrange for him to have a comprehensive tour. Charles's face changed, and he said with a serious face, "The situation is different. The risk of a comprehensive tour has far exceeded the estimate. Not to mention that your heir will take unexpected risks and has a high probability of dying in the process of the tour. If some foreign objects that we haven't detected are brought out of the Black Tower, causing a loss of control and leakage, the consequences will be unimaginable." Minter jumped directly into the air and hugged Charles's shoulder. "Hey, don't be so rigid. It's necessary to give this guy a full tour. If it affects our temporary cooperation with S01, will you take responsibility? Also, if anything happens along the way, I'll take all the blame. How about it?" Moreover, even was very supportive of this matter and sent a ghost god with the title of king to follow him. Besides that, there's a high-level fiend with a pure bloodline in the group, so their safety will definitely be guaranteed. Charles's eyes changed slightly. How did Francis get involved? Was this kid related to that guy's club? Even so, there was no guarantee of safety, but since both of you are supporting me, I'd like to see what's so special about this young man from S01. How about this? If you can meet this condition, I will agree to the application for a full tour. Charles pulled out a document and handed it to Minto. If we want them to have a full tour, we have to conduct the most conservative and direct test of losing control. Let one of them come into direct contact with Original 03. If their physiological parameters were maintained above 70, during an hour of contact, they would be able to maintain their physiological parameters above 70. I'll agree to let them have a full tour. The document bag that Charles threw to Minto had the large characters Original 03 printed on it. At the same time, there was a label of original information at the bottom right corner. Minto stared at the document in his hand and frowned slightly. Maintaining a stable parameter above 70 points after an hour of contact with the first derivative of the original? Even if they have a full tour, they won't be able to come into contact with the original, right? Even I can't grasp the real situation inside the containment tower. No one knows if the original or related items have been leaked out. This is the biggest concession I can make. Minto, okay, we'll do as you say. Let this thing come into contact with Han Dong. If there are any abnormalities along the way, I'll deal with it personally. Okay, loss of control test area. 3 dark rooms opened up in front of him. According to the staff, he only needed to stay inside for a while to complete the test. This test is very simple, although the method used is different each time. But according to the characteristics of Han Dong, you'll definitely be able to get a higher score easily. I'll go in first. Headless had undergone a loss of control test before. The wrinkles on the surface of the belly showed a very relaxed expression. Then, he stepped into one of the rooms. When the door closed, an employee stood guard at the door. Sally, let's go. Okay. Although it was Sally's first time, she was very confident. She walked into the room on the left with graceful steps. Just as Han Dong was about to step into the last room, a staff member wearing a black mask suddenly blocked his way. Official employee, Han Dong, please wait for a moment. It was detected that there are some data remnants in the current testing room. It needs to be cleaned up. It will take about 10 minutes. Please take a rest. The staff member politely pointed to the sofa at the side. At the same time, he served a cup of steaming, freshly ground coffee. Although everything looked normal, Han Dong still noticed some clues. A department directly related to the containment tower would make a mistake in such a matter. Of course, it could also be because the loss of control test hadn't been conducted for a long time. Mr. Han Dong, the test is ready. Please go in. Okay. When Han Dong passed by the staff member guarding the door, his perception caught a small detail. Even if the taboo mask completely covered the face and even covered the breath, Han Dong still noticed that the flesh on the neck was tight and even slightly trembling. The staff member was not only nervous, but also afraid of something. The situation doesn't seem right. Clang. When the metal door behind him was tightly sealed, Han Dong immediately increased his concentration to the maximum. At the same time, he also put a circle of red, smiley faces around his lips. Crazy Laugh had been fully activated in the cranium. The layout of the room was quite simple. It was similar to an interrogation room. A silver square table was placed in the middle. On the opposite side, there were pure silver benches. And on the inner bench, there was already an individual sitting. His whole body was wrapped in insulating tape, and his hands were fixed to the back of the bench by a pair of pure silver handcuffs. Chapter 1756. It was similar to the structure of an interrogation room. There were silver tables and chairs, as well as a mysterious individual wrapped in insulating tape and leaning against the wall. The scene in front of them could easily lead to a misdirection. Most individuals who underwent the out-of-control test would think that the process of taking a seat would be the beginning of the test, and they would naturally sit on the empty silver chair. However, Han Dong did not move at all from the moment he stepped into the room. He stood quietly at the door. Although his eyes were fixed on the individual wrapped in insulating tape and the silver chair left for him, he did not sit down. He remained motionless, and even his breathing gradually slowed down. Off-site, surveillance zone Mr. M, who had just finished negotiating with Charles, also rushed over and personally monitored the test status of Han Dong and the others. How is Han Dong's contact with the original derivative? The tester has remained motionless since he entered the room. 3 minutes and 21 seconds have passed. However, just standing still will not solve the problem. Original 03 I also has the intention of actively eroding. If the target does not voluntarily fall into the trap, it will definitely take action. If there is a problem, will it be us or you? If there are any problems, I will personally suppress them. However, Han Dong is standing still, not because he is worried or avoiding the problem, but because he is observing. Perhaps he will take action in advance. I see. A smile appeared on Han Dong's face. He finally made a move. He raised his left arm at a rather slow speed. Han Dong became thinner as he raised his arm. He felt that all the water, fat, and basic protein in his body were rapidly depleting. However, this did not come from the influence of the out-of-control, but from Han Dong's subjective changes. When his left arm was raised to the same height as his shoulder, Han Dong had already turned into a dried corpse. His breathing and heartbeat had stopped. A thick aura of death surrounded his body. This was the dead state that Han Dong had deliberately entered to deal with the current out-of-control test. His withered fingers gently tapped on the wall. His knuckles collided with the wall, producing a rather rhythmic tapping sound. Tick-tack, tick-tack, time is ticking away. Let's not waste any more time, okay? Mr. Silver, or Mr. Silver-like. This kind of clumsy trap doesn't have much effect on me. As soon as he finished speaking, the insulating bandages were scattered all over the ground. There was no life form wrapped in them at all. At this moment, the silver handcuffs, the silver table, and the silver stool began to transform into a liquid, converging into a humanoid figure in the middle of the room. He tilted his head and stared at Han Dong with a strange expression on his face. It seemed that it did not understand why its prey was in a state of complete death. As a result, many of its effects were unable to take effect. A hoarse voice that sounded like a worm crawled out of Han Dong's throat. You seem to be able to rapidly assimilate any living being at the soul level. Once I touch your silver, even if it's only for a moment, it will quickly seep into my soul. But now, even my soul has already died. What would you do? Speaking of which, you should be able to understand what I'm saying, right? This kind of provocation seemed to have achieved the desired effect. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the center of the silver individual's face, circles of regular ripples swayed. At the same time, it emitted waves of incomprehensible sound waves. With somewhat uncoordinated steps, it took the initiative to approach Han Dong. Every step left a pool of silver liquid on the ground. These liquids would move according to the rhythm of the sound waves. It seemed to want to forcibly inject the silver into Han Dong's body and directly tear his body apart through the resonance of the sound waves. Even if the other party was a corpse, it could achieve the same effect. Ta! It came into the attack range. Swish, a hand knife directly stabbed into Han Dong's abdomen. A stream of cold silver fluid quickly flowed into the body. Beep, beep, beep. An alarm sounded from the monitoring room. The data feedback from the Titan's Han Dong was wearing showed that the loss of control value was increasing rapidly. The individual is being assimilated by original 03I. The loss of control value has reached the containment standard. Request a complete purge of the target in the third test room. Seeing this scene, the staff concluded that Han Dong was beyond saving. Even if he could survive, he would definitely turn into a loss of control derivative. Wait, Mr. M motioned for the staff to not be anxious. At the same time, he asked, what is the loss of control value of original 03I? As a first-generation direct derivative of the original, its loss of control value is between 800 1200. Take a look at Han Dong's current loss of control value. With Mr. M's reminder, the staff stared at the values on the display screen, all dumbfounded. Han Dong's current loss of control value had reached a terrifying 1360, and it was still increasing. Logically speaking, as the assimilated, Han Dong's loss of control value could not exceed the assimilated subject. What is this? Mr. M revealed a rare smile. It was a good show to watch. Inside the testing room, the silver had spread to many parts of Han Dong's body. His arms and torso were covered in large silver spots. But when the silver fluid wanted to invade the most critical part of his brain, it was stuck in his neck and could not continue upward. It was as if his neck was stuffed with a dense, soft substance that could not be assimilated. A substance that original 03 I had never seen before. Chapter 1757. Although the staff members' facial expressions were covered by the black vortex mask, their shock and confusion could still be felt. As all the cameras were destroyed, they didn't know what had happened. The last scene was the scene of Han Dong being penetrated by the silver individual's palm into his abdomen. According to their understanding, Han Dong should be the one who died, but the result was the opposite. Mr. M dragged Han Dong directly to the next room. How do you feel? It's okay. This thing should belong to the secretion of a rampager or a foreign body affected by the rampager, right? It's quite novel. This substance can express the two states of the physical and spiritual body at the same time, and the erosion can reach the level of truth. Even if a mythical body is invaded, if it can't be removed in time, it will definitely die. However, this thing had a flaw. It could only be used on living things, or it could be said that it needed to absorb life force during the subsequent assimilation process. If the individual is already dead at the soul level, the assimilation will not be able to proceed. Clap, clap, clap. Han Dong's explanation won Mr. M's applause. Your eyes seem to have become different. You can see deeper and finer things. In just a few minutes of contact, you can read the characteristics of original 03. With that said, a document printed with original 03 was thrown directly into Han Dong's hands. It described the detailed information of its first type of derivative, the silver-like substance, which was basically the same as Han Dong's description. It was a product of consciousness. If this thing was allowed to get close to the consciousness, it would erode the consciousness and achieve origin assimilation. It was a pity that Han Dong stuffed his neck with tentacles, and the silver-like substance couldn't reach the head area at all. Original 03. Is this the serial number of the rampager? Is this silver-like substance produced by this thing? That's right. The amount we brought out this time was just the amount of saliva that flowed out during the one-day reading period. For most mythical bodies, it's quite dangerous. I didn't expect you to handle it so easily. I happened to upgrade my eyes a week ago. I can see more of the essence of things. It hasn't fully formed yet, and it still needs some time to gestate. Han Dong pointed at his glabella as he spoke. Naturally, Mr. M had noticed the difference long ago. When he observed it carefully, he seemed to see an eyeball seed growing in it. It was even beating like a heart. This is the first time I've seen a pupil like this. It shouldn't be something you obtained through simple cultivation, and it shouldn't have been exchanged from the Black Tower. Such a high level. Is it a special secret manual you obtained from World S01? Senior, have you heard of the demonic book? I've heard of it. After all, I didn't participate in the crusade against World S01. It seems to be a treasure unique to World S01. Yes, I've only just started cultivating my eyes. At this time, Han Dong also noticed the label on the bottom right corner of the file, Original. Senior, what do you mean? The rampager also has differences similar to the mother, offspring, and derivatives. The origin, mother, or first occurrence of a certain rampager phenomenon is called the original. The combination of original and serial number was their containment number. This kind of existence has high research value and risk, and often needs to be confined to the core area. Of course, there are special cases. Some of the friendly original can be used as special employees of the containment tower after a strict enough assessment. They will receive more freedom and some special treatment. We often use the original as the main code. Their offspring, derivatives, infected assimilators, and so on will be added with subsequent symbols based on their serial numbers to facilitate classification. According to different circumstances, they need to be housed separately or jointly. Understood. Han Dong, who had dealt with the clown, Pennywise, easily understood this layer of meaning. For example, the clown belonged to the original, and the individuals infected by the cackle virus would also be classified as the clown serial number. To some extent, Han Dong could also be classified as one of them. Not long after, Headless and Sally also came out of the testing hut one after another. The test score was 100, but their test situations were very different. Headless was not affected at all. In a very leisurely state, he stayed until the end of the time, and his body did not have any uncontrollable changes. And Sally's situation was similar to Han Dong's. Through the unique corruption, she directly made the uncontrollable individual responsible for testing her pregnant on the spot and directly turned into a poor, degenerate fetus. At the end of the test, Sally's room was full of all kinds of deformed and sick babies, and even the staff didn't know how to deal with them. In the end, at Han Dong's request, Sally took the initiative to clean up the scene. When they left, the attitude of the testing staff changed completely, and there was a sense of awe. At the same time, their view of the hybrid demons changed greatly. Walla Walla, when they stepped into the completely sealed Central Street, the rainfall doubled. Mr. M alone held a white umbrella. Han Dong held a black umbrella with a crow-shaped handle and walked with Sally. Headless seemed to enjoy such a rainstorm, letting the raindrops hit his body, and the resentful black hair on his neck even became denser. The rainstorm, the neon lights, and the fog that rose out of nowhere, so that the containment tower became blurred, and even the closer they got, the less they could see its specific shape. When the fog fell and the light of the spotlights dissipated, everyone just walked out of the street and came to the converging point of all the streets in the middle level, an open area originally called the Central Square. What's going on? This is the containment tower. It was completely different from the black cylinder that everyone observed from the periphery. The containment tower in front of them. It actually became a super building with a brutalist style, pragmatic style, modular elements, and the use of reinforced concrete. Those who didn't know would think that it was the headquarters building in the middle level of the Black Tower. The ground at the entrance was printed with the circular symbol representing the containment tower, geometric cube trapped in a ring. It was surrounded by the full name of the containment tower, Black Tower, Control Headquarters, BC, which translated as Black Tower Control Headquarters. This, Mr. M explained simply. This is the true image of the containment tower. Why is it built in the center? It is because it is the largest and most important in the Black Tower, and it can even be said to be a super institution that supports the world's technology. It is not as simple as accommodating rampagers. Many technical departments, materials departments, and space departments are located in it. 95% of the transporters in the middle city will have direct or indirect transmission contact with it. Come with me. Let's go see Mr. C first. He will give you special access to a comprehensive tour. Chapter 1758. Han Dong was surprised. He didn't expect to see the owner of the original alphabet so soon. This time, even if he didn't explain, Han Dong could guess that C probably corresponded to Control. This Mr. C must also be the current director of the Black Tower's General Control Bureau. Is Mr. C in the General Control Bureau? No. Although he is the director, he is mainly responsible for some special supervision work and important decisions. Most of the time, he is active in the upper area. Occasionally, he will come to be BC. In addition, the anomaly in the containment tower that couldn't be captured by instruments was also discovered by Charles. If it weren't for him, I'm afraid that until now, everyone would think that the containment tower was in an absolutely stable state. Since the problem was detected, Charles built a temporary office on the outer wall. Follow me. Taking the narrow lift on the side wall, they went up the brutalist building. In a room specially built with dark crystal of the universe, he saw Director Charles Olmedo, C, floating in the air. Silver hair, a straight cylindrical coat printed with universe patterns. A circular suspension collar covered the mouth and nose. A special eye printed with the X, symbol symbolizing prohibition, and a metal ring symbolizing restraint. The moment Han Dong saw this person, he attached the three labels of space, control, and intelligence. In terms of type, this director is. He is the same type as Bop and the Master of the Void. He is very strong. Unlike the pure physical body of the club owner, this is a kind of strength in a broad sense. Director Charles. Han Dong bowed his head respectfully. He had a good impression of this kind of strong researcher. The next second, a strange palm fell on Han Dong's shoulder. In addition to the human skin and the metal ring on the finger, there was also a feeling similar to an electric pulse, which stopped all movements in Han Dong's shoulder, including the basic activities of the cell. Transcription and translation no longer carried out, and the production of protein was also blocked. In theory, the flesh in the shoulder area must be completely necrotic in a short time. But everything in the contact area was normal. It seemed that even death and decay were forbidden. Yes, a special body, one of a kind. At the same time, you also have a relatively balanced soul and a strong consciousness that far surpasses your current level. No wonder you can perfectly switch between hybrid demon and human, and no wonder the silver doesn't pose any danger to you. If that was the case, he was indeed qualified to have a full tour. However, I have to add a few more conditions to prevent you from dying in there due to the lack of information. It's not worth it. 1. 3 of the metal rings on Charles's fingers automatically peeled off. There was no question of whether or not to accept him. The rings were forcefully put on Han Dong, Sally, and the headless wrists, turning into metal bracelets. The Black Tower Control Headquarters was designed by the original M as the main designer, and it was built under the supervision of the highest consciousness. Its importance is self-evident. It could be identified as the spine of the Black Tower. Its internal construction and structure are regularly updated every year, and its scale and complexity will far exceed your imagination. Although C is gradually getting out of our control in an irreversible state, the overall situation is still under our control. We have already sealed off some extremely dangerous areas. When you get close to such areas, the bracelet will turn red. In addition, when you get close to important management areas such as data file storage, authority management, and so on, the bracelet will turn blue. At the same time, the bracelet will also act as a guide. It will show you the name of the area you have reached, the basic description, and give you clear directions at some critical moments. Thank you, Director Charles. With such a good thing on him, not only could it help Han Dong quickly understand the structure of BBC, but it could also avoid unnecessary risks. Han Dong's impression of Senior C also grew rapidly. My request is simple. Unless necessary, don't get close to the above 2 areas and don't cause me too much trouble. If you completely lose control during the tour or realize that you can't get rid of the influence of losing control, stay inside and never come out. Understood. In addition, your tour time is subjective 48 hours. Because you may encounter time, turbulence, or expansion, causing the time outside and inside to not match. Therefore, the bracelet worn on you will be the main timer. If the bracelet's timer exceeds 48 hours, you will be marked as out of control and will stay inside forever. If there are no problems, hurry up and set off. The timer will start when you step into BC's main gate. Director Charles, I have one last question. All the monitoring equipment in the headquarters can't capture the out of control. What is it? Or what kind of phenomenon is it? When he asked this question, Director Charles leaned close to Han Dong's ear and spoke one-on-one. Isn't your purpose of coming here to see the specific situation of the storage tower? The answer to this question is the ultimate goal of your tour. How many problems can you see and how much essence can you see in 48 hours? This is also Mr. M's test for you, and it is also my standard for evaluating you. If you can see the essence, I will support you when you appear in front of the highest will in the future. Understood. Han Dong's curiosity grew. He was too curious about what kind of loss of control could not be detected by such a large-scale control bureau, but could hide from the highest will for such a long time and even reach an irreversible point. 5 minutes later, the main entrance of the Black Tower General Administration of Control, BBC, Han Dong, Sally, and Headless all changed into standard suits and stood at the door. They were wearing the temporary monitoring team tag and had Director Charles's mark. See, they had the right to inspect all areas of the headquarters. The moment they stepped through the door, the sound of the rainstorm outside the building stopped abruptly, as if completely isolated from the outside world. Beep beep. The bracelet also vibrated, and the countdown officially began. The scene in front of him stunned Han Dong. It was like stepping into the head office of a leading company. In the brightly lit hall, there were all kinds of employees in suits and leather shoes wearing BBC round badges on their chests. Some teleporters also appeared here, carrying out the transportation of materials and documents. This normal and stable situation was very different from Han Dong's expectation of the storage tower that was close to losing control. He thought that most of the employees had been evacuated, and only a small number of them stayed here to ensure the operation of the core facilities. Are all the employees still in their respective positions? Moreover, everything looks normal in front of him. Could it be that perhaps the loss of control did not affect here, but happened in a deeper location? For example, a prison area dedicated to the loss of control? At this time, a security guard stepped forward to verify their identities. Han Dong also took the opportunity to touch the security guard body and did not find any abnormalities. When the three passed through the security gate and walked into the depths of the hall, the security guard at the door tilted his head and stared at the back of the three without moving his eyes. Even when the three disappeared from his sight, he still did not turn his head. Chapter 1759. The main hall of the headquarters was gray. The floor was paved with large, reflective marble tiles. The light brought by the spotlights could easily illuminate the entire hall through the reflection effect. A surreal sculpture stood in the center of the hall. With a thin, straight, rectangular column as the main trunk, there were a large number of geometric branches on the surface, and the end of each branch was connected to a cube structure module. It looked like the structural diagram of a special shelter. It also looked like a modular tree full of futuristic technology. It seemed to be related to the core shelter concept of BC. In addition, the hall was a 500 by 500 by 5 meter flat cube structure. There was no elevator structure here. It was a space staircase, as a connecting passage to different departments and areas. There were a total of 36 different staircase entrances arranged in the hall at equal intervals. In addition, there was a very strange point. They were different from the staff in other areas of the Black Tower. The staff active in BBC did not wear whirlpool masks, revealing their human faces. At least Han Dong saw human faces in the hall so far, and he had not found any alien staff. Their logo was their clothes. Between the suits and leather shoes, there was a thin shirt that was attached to the body. The underwear worn by these guys is the control suit we wore during the test. Their state is monitored in real time, and any abnormalities will be known immediately. Moreover, there are too many staff here. Is it because we're in the transit hall? The Headless explained. The General Control Bureau and the Black Tower cannot be compared. The BBC staff must be treated separately. The reason for the large number of people is that all the primitive worlds under the Black Tower are providing staff here, and at the same time, they will also issue recruitment letters to various related worlds. When the Headless said this, Han Dong suddenly remembered that he was in the Ladybug Foundation. When Mr. M first mentioned the situation of the shelter tower, he said something very concerning. He mentioned that the staff recruitment rate of the shelter tower had long been unable to keep up. This was also why the Foundation had to develop the Ladybug game and put it in the primitive world to greatly increase the talent selection rate. Just like how the shelter tower would swallow people, it needed to constantly recruit and supply staff to ensure the normal operation of the whole. Why does the Central Control Bureau need so many people? I could understand the high risk of working here. Once things got out of hand, they would need to be isolated or even dealt with privately. But there's no need to use so many people, right? Headless knew that this was Han Dong's first time here, so he would definitely have a lot of questions. It was the same for him back then. Let me quickly explain the basic situation of the control headquarters to you. Once an individual in the primitive world under the Black Tower reached a certain standard, they would come directly to the Black Tower after their death and undergo the loss of control test immediately. As long as they reached the passing mark, they would be hired as interns at C, with a high salary. There was a fairly sound and fair promotion mechanism here. So far, most of the people we've seen in the lobby are interns. Once the internship period was over, they would be assigned to different departments based on their performance during the internship period. Every once in a while, a detailed evaluation would be conducted, and individuals who met the criteria would continue to be promoted. The promotion mechanism was the symbol of the general administration of control. The number of positions and titles in C exceeded 3 digits. It seemed complicated, but there were no loopholes. Every employee was trying to climb to the top. In this way, BC could not only provide us with a variety of rare foreign objects brought by the Rampagers, as well as technical support, but also through this large number of screening, promotion, and training management talents for the Black Tower. The top position, Director? Could it be that Director Charles was promoted in this way before? That's right. The current holder of the letter C, Charles Olmedo, was one of the best from here. Perhaps the word best is not appropriate to describe him. Director Charles was once a genius in the absolute sense, and could even be called a monster. When he was still an employee, he dealt with many emergencies and suppressed the Rampagers alone, and was completely unaffected by the loss of control afterwards. When he became the youngest director of the department, he was noticed by the former director and the holder of the letter C, and was identified as an heir to be trained. He lived up to expectations and finally sat in the position of director, and with the consent of the Supreme Will, he obtained the authority to hold the letter C. I see. However, this strict screening mechanism shouldn't require so many people, right? Even if they are not promoted, the employees will stay in their positions and continue to work. What's going on with such a large consumption? Headless' tone changed slightly, and he continued to explain. This involved a rather important issue: employee consumption. Working in BC, there's a huge risk of loss of control. The employees affected by the loss of control will not be reduced to zero after a period of isolation observation. There's a high probability that they will be disposed of or used as experimental subjects or maximize the surplus value of the individual, etc. In addition, when coming into contact with the Rampagers, the possibility of being killed is also very high. Especially when coming into contact with some special originals, sampling, transferring, or necessary communication requires close contact. A large amount of consumption is inevitable. If the Black Tower wants to get information, technology, and resources from the Rampagers, they must come into contact with them and pay the price. This is the reason for employee consumption. Han Dong frowned. Did the employees know the specific risks in advance? They all signed the risk agreement when they joined the company, so they were generally clear. If they die in the line of duty, their partners, children, or relatives in the corresponding world will receive a large amount of compensation. Han Dong nodded. Although everything seemed to be clean, Han Dong considered human nature. There were problems with this method of employee recruitment and management. As a result, the employees walking in the hall didn't look like independent individuals to Han Dong, but living consumables that had signed an agreement. Most of them didn't have the consciousness of sacrifice. It was just that because they were reborn in the Black Tower, they were directly or even forced to work like this to carry out their second lives. Let's go. Let's go to other areas. Do you plan to go directly to the Rampager containment area, or we'll go to some management departments? Let's go to the various departments first and roughly understand the internal situation. Follow me. Headless was familiar with the place and walked towards one of the corridors. Just as Han Dong was about to follow, he found that Sally stopped in place and looked around. Sally, do you sense any foreign objects? Sally quickly shook her head. No, everything is normal. It's just that I keep feeling a little weird here, but I can't tell what exactly it is. Maybe it's because this is the first time I've come into contact with this kind of human work mechanism. Do you feel weird? If this feeling persists in the future, or even becomes more obvious, you must tell me immediately. Okay. Chapter 1760. Staircase was a transportation component used to connect different areas in the headquarters. Under the guidance of Headless, everyone stepped into the staircase entrance marked number 9. The structure of the staircase is similar to the main building of the Secret Word Knights, similar to the Penrose staircase, but the dimension here is more derived. As long as this dimensional staircase is used as a connecting component, no matter how huge the headquarters is, distance will not be a problem. While saving time, it will also facilitate the safety control of various areas. If I'm not wrong, the main control room should be able to change, seal, or even directly erase the staircase to deal with the crisis of a rampager escaping. When Han Dong stepped on the stairs, the bracelet vibrated, detected that an individual has stepped into the shallow zone staircase. Holographic automatic navigation has been activated. Please select the area you want to go to. All the areas that could be reached by the number 9 staircase were projected. This included the front management area, the dispatch division, number 1 to number 10, the distribution data processing department, and so on. Among them, management headquarters, shallow zone, and spindle room were marked with a blue background. Shallow zone? Are we currently on the outermost floor of the B.C. headquarters? What does the spindle room mean? Han Dong clicked on the panel curiously, and the database embedded in the bracelet immediately popped up a corresponding explanation. Spindle room, level connection. The Black Tower Management Headquarters divided the interior into shallow, middle, and deep zones through the level. The different levels were completely separated by subspace technology. The spindle room was the only area for crossing levels. Note, other than the director, if you want to cross levels, you must obtain the direct permission of the current level's general manager to obtain a one-time spindle key. Oh, is there a more advanced transportation component than the spatial staircase? It seems that our main objective should be the deep zone. Let's go. Let's go get the key from the person in charge of the shallow zone. Management headquarters, shallow zone. The black, huge hexagonal room had a total height of more than 600 meters. The employees all stepped on an anti-gravity disc and floated in different areas of the wall. They controlled the computing system embedded in the wall and handled various matters with the highest efficiency. Although the true demon eye was still in its incubation period, Han Dong could already see more things than before. After scanning this place, he did not find any abnormalities. At least from here, it seems to be stable. Did the Tao say that the loss of control hasn't spread to the surface yet? Just as Han Dong was wondering about the stability of this place, a slender figure slowly descended from the top floor. He was more than 3 meters tall, but as thin as a bamboo pole. There were only a few strands of sparse hair hanging on the top of his head. There were loose bags under his eyes and many layers of sagging skin. At first glance, it was obvious that he had suffered from chronic lack of sleep. Unlike the suits worn by the employees, this person wore a straight black robe with golden lines that resembled chips flowing on the surface. Friend from the monitoring team, hello. I'm the person in charge of the shallow zone, Reg Tyrell. I have arranged for my subordinates to sort out the data of the past month, as well as the abnormal parameter reports. I will summarize them for you to check in 5 minutes. Yes. Han Dong also pretended to be an inspection team and was not in a hurry to ask for the spindle key. During the short wait, Han Dong also contacted Count in his body. His right arm had already evolved multiple dog noses. Count, do you smell anything? I checked the same situation as you. Apart from the fact that these guys haven't showered for a long time and are a little smelly, everything else is normal. Even when this Count used the first chapter of the 7 chapters of the Mystic Lord, he didn't find anything abnormal. Yes. Count, go and rest. Rest my ass. We clearly knew that there was a huge problem here, but what we saw was that everything was stable. This was too strange. Moreover, these guys are clearly working normally, but they don't seem to know what is going on. I will find the problem. At this time, the other party was carrying a stack of 8 thick documents and piled them in front of Han Dong and the others. They thought that they would need to spend a lot of time reviewing. Who knew? Eyeballs that were directly connected to Han Dong's brain quickly grew on the surface of the suit. These eyeballs, which had the ability to see through and analyze, examined the documents in sections, extracted the useful information, and sent it back to the brain for analysis. In less than 10 minutes, they finished reading. Han Dong also learned the professor's scientific research report and used professional terms to evaluate the work of the month and expressed his approval. Keep it up. You guys did a good job. All right, Manager Reggie, if we put aside the data and look at it from your personal point of view, what do you think of the current situation of BBC? Han Dong thought that this question would make things difficult for the manager of the Shallow Zone. Unexpectedly, the other party replied without hesitation. Quite stable. There are no problems. Currently, the risks that occur in the containment tower are controlled within an acceptable range. I believe you have also seen the monthly stability value of excellent in the data. Han Dong was not an inspection team. Since the other party answered this way, Han Dong took the opportunity to change the topic. Well, we'll go to a deeper level for inspection. We need you to provide the spindle key. However, this topic made Manager Reggie show a puzzled expression. Spindle key? Logically speaking, a monitoring team like yours that is recognized by the director should be equipped with one, right? Han Dong naturally made up a reason. The Black Tower is currently conducting a security assessment of BBC, and we need to get the key directly from you. Oh, so that's how it is. Please let one of you come with me. Something as important as the spindle key is usually sealed in the depths. I'll go. Sally, you and Brother Headless wait for me here. Don't run around. Before he left, Han Dong gave Sally a serious reminder, and at the same time, he made a gesture of patting her shoulder. At the same time, Brother Headless also made a shoulder-patting gesture, indicating that Han Dong should be careful. Rumble. He followed Manager Reggie to the black wall 100 meters above the ground. He placed his palm on the wall and turned his wrist 720 degrees. A secret passage appeared in the wall. Come on, the spindle key is stored in the innermost part. Manager Reggie, who was as slender as a bamboo pole, showed a somewhat strange, even shrunken smile as he crawled into the narrow passage. Han Dong also shrunk his body size. He crawled into a sealed chamber built with universe dark crystal and was completely connected to the outside world. The entrance to the secret passage was also completely closed as the two entered. A spindle key made of countless miniature cubes was suspended in the pillar of light in the center of the room. Please, after taking the spindle key, your identity will also be uploaded to BBC's central database. If the key is not returned, or if any problems occur during the use of it, you will be held responsible. Okay. When Han Dong stepped in front of the pillar of light, he deliberately put on a glove condensed by sacred blood before grabbing the key. Grabbing the key, there was no abnormal reaction. However, at this moment, Manager Reggie was behind him at some point. His slender, bamboo-like arm had reached out and was close to the back of Han Dong's head. The palm completely split from the fingers, and metal scissors, drills, and silk threads drilled out and were about to destroy the brain. At the critical moment, a strong and powerful arm suddenly clasped Manager Reggie's wrist joint, making him unable to move at all and stopping this action. However, Han Dong's hands were still holding the spindle key. This arm was not his. The arm was cold and gloomy. It was fat and heavy. At the same time, it had thick resentment hair. The place where the fat hand grew was exactly where the headless head had patted Han Dong's shoulder. At the same time, Han Dong's lower abdomen quickly bulged. Walala, like amniotic fluid breaking, a baby girl with goat hooves fell to the ground. The baby girl bit off the umbilical cord by herself. In just a few seconds, she grew into the appearance of a teenage girl, revealing a powerful hybrid demon aura. Chapter 1761. To be on the safe side. Han Dong would never act rashly on his own when he knew that C was hiding an unknown danger. The essence of Headless was a kind of resentment aggregation, and it belonged to the same category as Miss Chun-Li. Simply put, it was a ghost. It was just that the level it had reached had long surpassed the conventional concept. Even the Fight Club, Headless was a famous powerhouse and regional supervisor. From the intimate conversation between Mr. Francis and Headless, it could be felt that Headless was a member of the club. Just by the quick touch of patting the shoulder, it could transfer the resentment origin into Han Dong's body and achieve the transfer of the body. This was not difficult for Headless. However, what surprised Headless was that Sally Love, who was only a mythical body, could actually do the transfer of the body upon contact, and the method of transferring the body was quite special. However, surprise was surprise. The most important thing was what was happening in front of him. He never expected that the superficial general manager, Reggie Tyrell, who no one could sense any problems, would actually attack Han Dong and directly lock on to the fatal point, the head. At this moment, Reggie, who was caught in the act, said with a look of surprise, "What are you doing?" "It's just the first time I've seen a monitoring team without a rotary key. I just want to open your brains to check. You also know how serious the situation would be if someone disguised as a monitoring team invaded the control headquarters. Come on, I'll open your brain to check. I definitely won't do anything." As soon as he finished speaking, Reggie Tyrell's arm was completely crushed, and thousands of metal tools fused inside were destroyed. The torn body represented the existence of a gap. The seemingly fat arm made a rather delicate movement. Through the gap of the crushed arm, it directly grabbed the soul inside. Whoosh! The soul was pulled out, and without any resistance, it was swallowed into Headless' big belly. The layers of the belly kept squirming, as if chewing and digesting. In fact, Headless was using this method to analyze the soul quality, trying to find the root of the problem hidden deep inside. But as he chewed, Headless showed an unhappy expression and even scratched his armpit to express his dissatisfaction. Strange, even his soul is clean. It hasn't been corroded or changed in any way. Why is this guy behaving so strangely, even wanting to attack you, an inspector? This made the Wu capital a little confused. Han Dong was also confused. He mumbled to himself, "That's right. Just now, this guy really wanted to kill me. I already had a death premonition in advance. Even if Big Brother Headless didn't make a move, I would have fought back. Strange, what exactly went wrong? Why is it that neither the Black Tower's detection methods nor our senses can find the source of the out-of-control? Could it be that the source of control was hiding in a domain deeper than the soul and was altering or influencing the foundation of his consciousness? What the hell is going on?" Headless replied, "If it was so easy to find, it would have been cleaned up by the Black Tower. Let's take it slow. We still have 47 hours. While the two were discussing, Sally, who was still in her teenage years, was squatting on the ground as she stared at the shattered flesh on the ground, deep in thought. "Sally, did you find anything? The guy who was killed shouldn't be his original body, right? Although he exuded the aura of a king, his strength was far from enough. These bodies also look very cheap. Even if they were used to give birth, they wouldn't be able to produce decent offspring." Headless continued, "After all, this guy was the general manager of the Shallow Zone. If he was killed by me so easily, the control headquarters would be too childish since the rotary key is already in hand. Let's go out first." Okay. As the entrance to the secret room was sealed, they had to think of a way to leave from the inside. Just as Headless was thinking about how to break this kind of universe-dark crystal known as the Black Tower, Han Dong stepped forward and placed his palm on the surface of the crystal. Not knowing when, Han Dong's arm had become as thin as bamboo, exuding an aura similar to Manager Regal. Perfect imitation. This was the first imitation Han Dong made after advancing to the mythical body. The palm on the wall rotated by a full 720 degrees. Ka. The secret passage opened. Headless Belly had a lot of wrinkles, showing shock and confusion. He was attached to Han Dong's body the whole time, so he knew that Han Dong didn't have any contact with Manager Regal during the whole process. Is it possible to achieve such a level of imitation through indirect contact? This kid is really powerful. Everyone went through the secret passage and returned to the management headquarters, Shallow Zone. The staff here were still working in an orderly manner. Not only did they not show any hostility, but they also didn't even look at the crowd. These guys don't care about the general manager being killed at all. Just as he finished this sentence, a slender figure instantly descended from the sky. The general manager in a black robe appeared again, exuding a stronger aura than before. However, his eyes that seemed to be filled with killing intent quickly changed to a harmonious and even a bit timid state. He lowered his head, rubbed his skinny arms like an insect, and said in a tone of inferiority, "Inspectors, you should have successfully obtained the rotary key, right? What I did just now was really because I had no choice. As the supervisor, I have to verify your identity and strength. If I offended you in any way, please forgive me. Being able to kill my dry body in one hit shows that you do have the strength of an inspector. During the contact, I didn't find any uncontrollable factors. I'm really sorry, that's right. Last reminder, before you leave, remember to return the key to me." "Well, I understand." Han Dong didn't say much and turned to leave. When everyone walked back to the stairwell, Sally asked with a smile, "Nicholas, do you think that guy was testing us? Or is there really a problem?" "Both. Let's ignore them for the time being. We can't see the source of the problem in the Shallow Zone. Let's go deeper." Spindle Room. One of the characteristics of the Black Tower's control headquarters was huge, a huge design that was completely beyond common sense. The Spindle Room was the size of a football field. The height couldn't be seen, as if the top was the deep space of the universe. A pure, black, square prism was rooted in the center like a spindle, extending infinitely to the upper area. This thing should be the main sculpture in the hall area, so it means the spindle? Just by standing here, I could already feel the compression of space. This thing is like a spatial condensation made by mixing countless worlds together, compressing and solidifying them. When Han Dong came to the spindle and took out the spindle key he had just obtained, he immediately understood the principle. The spindle is equivalent to an extremely compressed, ultra-unstable spatial condensation. Only such a high-density spatial condensation can penetrate the dimensional gap and serve as the only channel connecting different levels. And this modular spindle key can guide the individual through a stable transition by pairing with the condensation. Let's go. The three of them maintained physical contact to ensure that they wouldn't be separated by the transmission. Han Dong held the key in his hand and walked at the front of the team. Buzz! Light flashed. Because the spatial density was proportional to the transmission speed, the level crossing was completed in an instant. Han Dong and the others landed directly in front of a dark passage. However, Headless was stunned and exclaimed, "What's going on? Shouldn't the spindle key provided by the Shallow Zone only lead to the Middle Zone? Why do we come directly to the Deep Zone, and why aren't we in the Spindle Room? Where's this place?" Chapter 1762. Leaderless had only visited C once. Moreover, it was not a comprehensive visit. He was mainly here to help deal with an urgent matter. At that time, an individual who was taken in the middle layer suddenly had an abnormality during the transfer. It required a powerful spirit body like Headless to deal with it effectively. Due to the lack of manpower, they temporarily recruited from the outside, taking the risk and offering high rewards. Headless had nothing to do, so he wanted to come over to play. Although the Rampager was successfully dealt with, Headless was also afraid of BC from then on and no longer took the initiative to contact this place. Therefore, the depth that Headless had come into contact with was only the middle layer. His understanding of the deep layer was completely at the information level. The teleportation ended. The rotating key was completely broken. If he wanted to transfer levels, he had to find another way. Han Dong looked around the passage he was in. The walls were built with pure, black frosted stones. There were various geometric protrusions on the surface, as if its structural rules had been disrupted. There were bursts of white light seeping out from some of the walls. Although it could slightly illuminate the passage, it also added a sense of strangeness. However, Han Dong did not feel any abnormalities. At least, there was no immediate danger. This is the deep layer? Brother Headless, how did you know? It's very simple. I can judge the depth through this sense of restriction. Haven't you noticed that your domain can't be opened? At the same time, there's a rather obvious sense of imprisonment and restraint. Can't you feel it? Is there? Han Dong raised his hand, and strange black balloons immediately floated around him. Although this was not the full appearance of the domain, it was enough to mean that Han Dong's domain was not suppressed or otherwise affected. Moreover, Han Dong himself did not feel any sense of imprisonment or restraint. If some of the things that happened before surprised Headless, then this was definitely shocked. In Headless knowledge, any individual who came to be BC would be suppressed, and this suppression would become stronger as the level went deeper. When he and a few external powerhouses went to the middle layer to suppress it, everyone could only exert 50% to 70% of their strength. Not to mention the deep layer. What's going on? Even my king's region will be greatly restricted. Why aren't you affected? Out of curiosity, the Headless placed his stomach on Han Dong's body to perform a comprehensive examination. At the same time, Han Dong also noticed Sally's abnormal behavior. Ever since she was teleported here, she had not moved a single step. More than 10 tentacles had grown out from her clothes, and they cooperated with her arms to hug her body. The horns on her forehead had also grown out. Evidently, Sally was using her hybrid demon characteristics to resist the environment. In that case, Han Dong was indeed the only exception. Headless continued to explain, the Black Tower's control headquarters doesn't just divide the area by level. The deeper he went, the greater the control effect. Compared to the shallow level that focused on management and overall control, it was different. The management of Rampagers had already begun in the middle layer. However, the Rampagers imprisoned there weren't particularly dangerous. In fact, some of them were very friendly. After going through a series of assessments, they even cooperated with the employees. At the same time, the middle layer was also an important connection point. Some of the important materials, pheromones, foreign objects, and so on collected in the deeper zone would be processed in the middle zone. Some of the friendly Rampagers were the key to processing these products. But we skipped the relatively safe middle layer and went directly to the deeper zone. You can say that. The deeper zone is basically a prison or the prototype of a shelter. It's used to control and restrict those extremely dangerous Rampagers. Han Dong caught a keyword. Prison? The reason why I'm not restricted is most likely related to my head, because my head has the characteristics of a prison. In Headless eyes, Han Dong's head was always shrouded in a cloud of gray fog. From the moment we met, we couldn't see through the nature of your head. I only know that your head can provide camouflage abilities, and it actually has the characteristics of a prison. What's the internal structure? There's a prison world inside. It's very troublesome to explain it in detail. If there's a chance, I'll bring Brother Headless to experience it firsthand. A world in the head? Well, after the tour here is over, I'll take a look inside your head. It seems that this must be the reason why you're not restricted. Also, I have a suggestion. Han Dong, you'd better disguise yourself and pretend that you're restricted to avoid being targeted. We have to assume that the deeper zone is completely out of control. Han Dong nodded. Even if Headless didn't suggest it, he would have done so. It was important to have a trump card. Let's go and see what this place is. Headless walked at the front of the group with the identity of a king. Sally, who had adapted to the feeling of being restricted, walked in the middle of the group. Moreover, Sally's current appearance was similar to that of a pregnant woman who was 5 months pregnant. She was nurturing a perfect fetus in her body in case of emergencies. Han Dong pretended to be uncomfortable and stayed at the back of the group. They didn't encounter any abnormalities in the tunnel. The only strange thing was that, as long as they walked through an area, the geometric blocks that were originally protruding from the wall would retract and return to the normal appearance of a tunnel. When they stepped out of a tunnel that was about 1,000 meters long, everyone came to a huge black room. Looking up, they couldn't see the top. The top seemed to be an endless deep space. There were 2 characteristics of this area. 1, the ground was a kind of metal magnetic particles that seemed to be able to capture the identity of the visitor. 2, a large number of black blocks existed here. Each block was at least the size of a conventional prison, and some of them were up to 100 meters in size. Some of the blocks protruded from the wall, and some were suspended in the air. The invisible sense of oppression caused everyone to instinctively slow down their walking speed. The bracelets worn on everyone's wrists also failed at this time, and the detection result of the current area was just then. Russell, the magnetic particles converged in the middle and constructed a special individual in a suit with a cable connected to the back area and a display-shaped head. On the current display, dozens of heads gathered together to form a bloody, smiling emoji. The sound of electromagnetic interference came from the speaker. "Welcome to the deepest house. I'm your receptionist. Next, we need to proceed with a rather important process to facilitate our management. It's very simple. We just need each of you to answer a few questions individually. We will arrange the visit method according to the results of your respective answers. After all, you are here to visit. Am I right? Don't make any resistance movements, and don't make any answers that are against your will. Otherwise, you will die miserably." As soon as the voice fell, the black blocks embedded in the wall or suspended in the air took off the black film on the surface. It was changed to a panoramic transparent containment room. Hundreds of thousands of rampagers who were contained in it temporarily put down the toys, books, or what they were doing. They lowered their heads and looked at Han Dong and the others. Chapter 1763. The sense of oppression increased 100-fold under such a gaze. There were at least 10 kings in these boxes, not to mention that they were all abnormal creatures that were labeled as out of control. Moreover, Han Dong had a very intuitive feeling. These outlaws were not imprisoned in the boxes, but more like resting in their respective rooms. They could come out at any time if they wanted to. This scene scared Count so much that he hid in the mansion. Once a conflict broke out, he would definitely die. Drops of dark sweat overflowed from Headless' neck and dripped down along his fat belly. Even if Headless did not have the confidence to survive such a scene, and there was no option of escape here, the bracelet had lost its effect, and he did not know where to escape. He did not know where the spindle room was, nor did he have the corresponding spindle key. No matter what angle he analyzed from, he could only listen to Headless' arrangement. What questions? The Q&A session needs to be carried out one-on-one. We need to get the true answers from the individual's heart, so that we can arrange the most suitable tour for you. Let's start with you, the Ghost King. As soon as he finished speaking, magnetic particles rose from the ground in the form of a square coffin, sealing Han Dong and Sally inside. The next questions made Headless' belly look awkward. Some questions even required a long time to think independently. However, Headless did not intend to rush him and patiently waited for the answer. After Headless answered all the questions, it was Sally's turn. Finally, it was Han Dong's turn. He looked like a thin young man who had not adapted to the environment in the deep room. His body was slightly pale, and he was even sweating when the magnetic particles were disassembled. Headless and Sally were no longer in this deep room. It seemed that they had embarked on a tour specially tailored for them. An individual with a display structure in the head was connected by a speaker. Your physical condition doesn't seem to be very good. Of course, it's normal that you can adapt to the restrictions of the deep room at your level. I hope you can answer the questions properly and not be arranged to take a more dangerous tour route. After all, we are still very caring and do not want to see any deaths. Next, let's enter the Q&A session. Be sure to listen carefully and answer according to your heart. Can you wait for me for a moment? I still feel a little uncomfortable. Han Dong pretended to be very uncomfortable. He supported himself with his arms on the ground and vomited. All kinds of substances in his stomach were vomited out. This scene attracted all sorts of laughter from the sky. It seemed that this was the first time they had seen a weakling like Han Dong come to the depths of BBC. At the same time, some of them lost interest in weaklings like Han Dong and stopped paying attention to him. However, Han Dong used the opportunity of vomiting to contact Dr. Swollen. A compressed, pill-like brain quietly appeared in Han Dong's cranial cavity, achieving the perfect integration of the brain in a rather subtle way. This was also a manifestation of the doctor's micromanipulation of the brain after becoming a mythical body. While wiping off the residue at the corner of his mouth, Han Dong was also conducting the most secretive and deepest level of communication. The doctor had already fused into the brain, so the process of consciousness transmission was skipped. The communication between the two would never be captured. Furthermore, Han Dong had also applied multiple layers of encryption to the brain, as if the whole brain was printed with a smiling face. Doctor, I need you to deal with the problem later and get the answer you think is the best. I'm only responsible for saying the answer. The doctor asked worriedly, if I answer according to my idea, what if I fail? Doctor, you'll have to think about this. What is the best answer? Han Dong stood up shakily from the ground. His face became even weaker as he said reluctantly, let's begin. Let me remind you again. Your answer must follow your heart. If I catch any answer that goes against your heart, the result will be very bad. Let's start with the first question. Which color do you prefer the most? Without any time to think, Han Dong gave the answer directly. Green. Choose the one you prefer the most from the following numbers. 16. There is still no time to think. Which of the following geometric figures do you prefer the most? Hexagonal vertebra. The first 10 questions were all very intuitive choices. The questions themselves did not have much meaning. The main purpose was to let the respondent form a mode of intuition. However, this did not work on Han Dong's thinking. These seemingly simple questions were all systematically thought out by the doctor, but the final answer was given by Han Dong. Next was a more special question, which was displayed through the display of the individual's head. The display showed 3 doors. 2 of the doors had the markings, 1 and 2. The third door did not have any serial number, and it looked a little old and damaged, but there were some colorful scissors around it pointing to this door. Excuse me, if I suggest you take door number 1 and I don't suggest you take door number 2, which door would you choose? Please choose your answer through the touchscreen. Without hesitation, Han Dong quickly chose the worn-out iron door without a serial number. The display showed the unknown iron door chosen by Han Dong in a first-person perspective. After passing through the corridor, he came to the manager's office at the end. A middle-aged man was sitting in an office chair, staring at Han Dong outside the display with a surprised look. At the same time, a terrifying monster with teeth crawled out of the ventilation duct at the top of the office. One of its eyes was staring at the manager, and the other was staring at Han Dong outside the display. You suddenly encountered the following situation. Which creature in the picture would you kill first? Please click on the screen to kill. Han Dong did not hesitate and quickly made a decision. However, the location he clicked on was neither the manager nor the monster in the ventilation duct. Instead, it was in the corner of the screen, a small goldfish in a very inconspicuous fish tank. As Han Dong made his decision, he walked into the office from a first-person perspective, ignoring the manager and the monster. He came to the fish tank, picked up the fish tank, and poured the small goldfish into his mouth along with the clear water inside. When he finished swallowing and turned his head back, the manager and the monster had exchanged blood, and the crisis was resolved. The screen continued to move. The first-person perspective climbed into the ventilation duct opened by the monster. Soon, he encountered the next problem that required choice. There were 3 forks in front, left, and right. The front passage was covered with arrow signs to continue forward. The left passage was obviously a dead end. The right passage was filled with white fog. It was impossible to know what kind of situation he would encounter. Han Dong decisively chose the right passage that was full of unknowns, just like that. As if he was playing a first-person adventure game that required him to make choices at any time, Han Dong finally completed the game and achieved a true ending. The screen came to a circular prison with various numbers posted all over. The protagonist also fully realized that he was a monster. Finally, he locked himself in one of the cells through the control panel. The game ended when the prompt appeared in the screen. Clap, clap, clap. Ribbons made of various magnetic particles scattered in all directions, and the metal body in front of him also swelled up. Some of the rampagers who were not interested in Han Dong before also cast an incredulous look at him again. Congratulations. You have achieved a true ending. The answer you gave in the end actually obtained a perfect score of 100 points and obtained the right to visit Route 1. If you meet the teacher on the way, please say hello to him for me. Chapter 1764. Teacher, Han Dong, who had finished answering the question, still looked exhausted and uncomfortable. That's right. Teacher is the greatest individual here. It's all thanks to Teacher that I can have my current achievements. You'll naturally know when you see him. With the choice you've made, you're quite suitable for living here. You must be very suitable for Teacher's recruitment criteria. Not just anyone could take the first route. Even the people here can't enter it at will. Han Dong pretended to be obedient and continued to ask, I don't know how to greet this teacher on your behalf. After all, I don't even know what your name is. However, a question mark appeared on the monitor screen. The mark tilted its head slightly and stared at Han Dong. Didn't we already introduce ourselves when we met? Han Dong immediately reacted. You're the deepest house. That's right. Suddenly, not only did the magnetic particles that formed the ground begin to flow, layers of thick black magnetic waves also surged in this black room with no ceiling. The transparent containment rooms were plated with black film again and returned to their original appearance. It was obvious that everything here was under the control of this person. So strong. This guy's strength is at least at the level of Old Middle King. What kind of existence is this person who can be called a teacher by this guy, and whose words are full of reverence? However, things are getting interesting. If I can come into direct contact with this existence, I might be able to figure out the true situation of BBC. Mr. Deepest House, I wonder where my 2 friends went. The Deepest House, which seemed to be easy to talk to, showed an X on the monitor. I can't tell you this. For the convenience of management, each visitor's route will be separated and kept secret. Don't worry. If your friends can recognize the situation, abandon their stubborn ideas of the past, and accept a new system, you will inevitably meet in the end. Of course, if they're unwilling to accept it, then it's hard to say. Let me remind you again, there are very few individuals who can qualify for the first route. You can cherish such an opportunity. The wall at the front was modularized to form a passage to leave the deep house. At the same time, the number 1 was highlighted at the top. After Han Dong left, Yi Zichen left. The mimicry that Mr. Fukaya used in his question-and-answer mode was instantly broken down into magnetic particles. Everything returned to normal as he waited for the next guest. Wong. We stepped into the entrance that symbolized route number 1. Immediately, a short-distance teleportation occurred. Han Dong stepped out from the surface of a black wall. In front of him was not a prison filled with holding cells. It wasn't a particularly special connection either. Instead, it was a very spacious flat office. Unlike the bustling working environment in the shallow layer, there was not a single worker here. The pitch-black walls, coupled with the crimson light that sometimes seeped in and sometimes dissipated, made the entire floor look extremely strange. Ding dong. A tremor came from his wrist. At the same time, red and blue lights flashed alternately. You're currently in the Advanced Technology Development Department. Warning. This area contains important confidential documents of B, C, and it is also an uncontrolled erosion area. Please leave as soon as possible. Han Dong didn't care about the bracelet's warning at all, because the current situation was not something he could change at all. The bracelet's function is restored. It seems that we should be in the deep house, as body just now. With its magnetic characteristics, the bracelet was completely blocked. I didn't expect that the other party would force us to separate. I believe that Brother Headless can deal with this emergency. When I thoroughly understand the deeper layer, I will find a way to meet him. Han Dong also touched his slightly bulging lower abdomen at the same time, slightly higher than usual by 3 centimeters. A special embryo was slowly being nurtured in his body. Han Dong took a simple tour of the current technology development department. The overall structure was 2-story, square structure. The first floor had various experimental areas, material storage rooms, and the door to the next area, locked and require verification of the technical minister's work card to open. The second floor was the regular office area. All kinds of information obtained by the technical department would be handed over here for analysis, sorting, and classification. Han Dong pondered. It seems that I have to thoroughly explore the current area and find the identification card before I can go to the next area. These guys are quite considerate, setting up this kind of scene similar to a decryption game. In the process of searching for the minister's work card, I will inevitably come into contact with some core files, which can help me quickly understand the internal situation of BBC. I believe Mr. Charles can understand that I have no choice but to look at the core information here. Han Dong first searched the office area on the second floor. Every document on the desk and in the drawer would be quickly scanned once. Once the important content was captured, he would review it carefully. Most of the documents were internal matters of the technical department, such as the schedule, personnel interface, time arrangement, and so on. Under the circumstances where there was not much to gain, Han Dong opened the door of the minister's office. Unfortunately, the interior of the office had been cleaned up in advance. It seemed that the minister had realized that a situation out of control was about to happen and quickly emptied the office. There were no documents, nor could he find the work card that could be swiped. However, there were still fine remnants of paper in the shredder on the side of the desk. In theory, this level of shredded paper could not be recovered. But Han Dong grabbed the wastebasket and poured all the paper scraps in his mouth. "Doctor, help me restore these shredded documents as soon as possible." "No problem." Just as Han Dong touched the shredder, the red light flowing in the office intensified. About 10 minutes passed. The doctor displayed the restored document directly in his brain. The relevant content made Han Dong widen his eyes and look troubled. Control and management of runaway worlds and plane integration. The technical research department here was mainly responsible for integrating worlds that were seriously affected by the runaways and could not operate normally. Although the Black Tower excluded these worlds from the normal operating circle and cut off the connection with their worlds, it did not purge or destroy them. Instead, it was handed over to the General Control Department. A channel connected to the world was re-established inside the General Control Department. Then, they were all preserved through a special integration method. Every once in a while, BBC employees would go to these worlds to investigate, sample, and even intervene on a large scale to make full use of their remaining value. In addition, the document also mentioned the establishment of the Special Committee, which attempted to use the power of some of the original runaways to control, influence, and even erode these runaways. Let the runaways of different origins collide with each other, forming a phenomenon of mutual loss of control and even actively breeding hybrids. I originally thought that the main purpose of BBC's existence was to suppress and contain the runaways, as well as reasonable research and application. Now, it seems that it doesn't make sense at all. Although playing like this can greatly increase the efficiency of research and obtain more results, it can't guarantee stability at all. Just as Han Dong was reviewing the confidential document in his mind, a voice suddenly rang out. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The red light in the office became stronger and stronger. Granular dark red dots floated between the walls like waves. When the red light spread behind Han Dong, it actually reflected an individual that did not exist before. A middle-aged man in a white shirt and black trousers was hanging from the top of the desk in a hanging state. Granular blood kept flowing out of his eyes as he stared at Han Dong, who was reading the document with his eyes closed. Chapter 1765. In fact, Han Dong, who was in a state of brain integration with the doctor, could always monitor the external situation even if he was reviewing information in the cranial room. Not to mention that he was now acting alone, so he would definitely always pay attention to the surroundings to see if it was safe. When the concentration of the red light increased, Han Dong had already noticed the abnormality. When the red light, which spread like particles, swept across the desk area, it directly revealed a strange hanged person. The blood flowing out along the eye sockets was like a liquid substance composed of small solid particles. Lord, there's something behind you. Do you need me to release a mental attack to solve it? No, now is not the time to show your strength. Remember, I'm currently disguised as an inspector with average strength, and I haven't even completely adapted to the restrictive effect brought by the deep layer. If the other party wants to attack me, and then do the corresponding actions. If you want to survive and understand the real situation of B, C, you must continue to pretend. Understood. Han Dong didn't feel nervous at all, even though the hanged person was slowly moving in the air and gradually approaching Han Dong's back. Lord, the other party is about to make a move. Even with the doctor's reminder, Han Dong still didn't move. Whoosh! The palm directly inserted into Han Dong's spine. It wasn't a real insert, but something similar to a data cable access port. Dense red particles appeared in the back area where the palm poked in. They were either reading the target's body data or carrying out some kind of assimilation. Han Dong made a painful expression and gritted his teeth to endure it. He reluctantly turned around, and his right arm turned into a blood dog. Crack! He bit off the target's upper body and resolved the crisis. The body that was bitten didn't regenerate or self-destruct. It directly turned into scattered red particles on the ground. It wasn't very strong and was even very weak. It had to be said that the acting was really good. Even Han Dong himself was almost fooled. A circle of cold sweat overflowed from his forehead as if he was scared out of his wits. Doctor, have you analyzed the other party's essence? An individual model composed of light particles. When it was inserted into your back, it should be quickly analyzing your body structure and copying the DNA sequence. The damage isn't great, but it can read your physical information. I'm confident that I can make a bold guess. The area you're currently in is similar to a printer and has already read the information of the employees who used to work here. The red light, which was mainly in the form of particles, was a sign of printing. When the intensity of the red light increased, it meant that the printing process had begun and the former employees could be printed out one by one. If I can read your information, I might be able to do a similar 3D printing. However, this kind of printing is more towards the physical body, and the precision is not particularly high. Han Dong thought for a while and said, the main purpose should be to read my information. I see. Professor is not bad. Lord, please be careful. Since the data reading was interrupted, the other party will definitely not let this matter rest. Yes, we'll leave once we find the department head's badge. When Han Dong pushed open the door of the office, the originally empty technical department was now filled with hanged people. All of them were staring at Han Dong, who was standing at the entrance of the office with their eyeballs shaped like granules. Under the red light, their necks twitched violently. When it was pulled out of the knot, it immediately floated towards Han Dong. Count, Han Dong used the most commonly used combat mode when he was still in the atavistic body. A blood dog, several meters long, was released independently. However, the blood dog's teeth were shining with an abnormal blood light, with the attribute of a holy sword. Han Dong himself turned into a corpse. With a wave of his hand, caw, 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 hundreds of crows with white bones circled around, and the ground was constantly overflowing with black sand. A corpse and a dog were crazily killing in the technical department, and all kinds of fine red particles were scattered all over the ground. These hangars were very fragile and could be said to be broken with a touch, but their number was infinite. As long as one was killed, it would immediately be printed in the red light area. Moreover, once touched by the palm, it would be quickly inserted into the body like a port, and it would feel very uncomfortable. It's not good to delay for too long. Otherwise, the abnormal physical strength I show may lead to the disguise being seen through. Professor, can you speculate where the department head's badge is? I really can't figure it out. Since the department head's office has been emptied, I really can't think of where else the badge would be. How about we conduct a carpet search on the first floor? There's a high probability that we won't be able to find it. I have an idea. If the technical department is analogous to a printer, there must be a printer body, and this body should have read the department head's information before. Lord, you want to— Yes, Professor, you reverse the position of the main body. Hurry up. Han Dong immediately pretended to be physically exhausted and accidentally missed the hanger behind him. Whoosh! The other party's arm directly inserted into the back of Han Dong's head, carrying out a super-efficient data reading. However, a brain tentacle also reversely inserted into the body of the hanger, reverse tracking. Lord, 3 o'clock on the first floor. Han Dong's left index finger moved. Caw! A crow crashed into the body of the hanger, and both withered and died together. Han Dong, who broke free from the restraints, immediately cooperated with the blood dog and rushed to the position pointed by the professor. Sure enough, in the corner of the laboratory, a printer shining with red light was working. Ha! His right hand slapped the surface of the printer. Squeak, squeak, tentacles quickly inserted into it. It looked like a printer on the outside, but the inside had a structure similar to a biological skull, which was composed of red particles. Using the adaptability of the tentacles to disguise the printer's brain, he quickly searched for the information of the technical department head. Buzz, accompanied by a flash of red light. After printing, a staff card was directly hung on Han Dong's neck. At the same time, as the printer took over the hanger, all stopped attacking Han Dong. To be precise, it should be the desire to read. Beep, beep, beep. At the same time, the bracelet vibrated. Detected that the individual is in direct contact with the out-of-control body. The relevant registration data is as follows. Containment name, red printer registration number, original 1098, out-of-control type, ordinary person, human, out-of-control level. V, 5th class. For detailed containment information, please click to view. Oh, there's actually such detailed information? This thing also belongs to the original, but its strength seems to be average. It should mainly be a functional out-of-control object. Perhaps before the out-of-control incident, this printer was used in the technical department, which is relatively easy to control and friendly. Later, because of the out-of-control spread, it also caused this seemingly stable printer to have abnormalities. At this moment, there is a more excited voice from the professor, frowny face lord. I detected that the brain of this machine does not reject us. Maybe we could try to control it and turn it into something that belongs to us. Oh, let's try. Following a series of operations by the professor, the red light scattered in the technical department was all recovered. At the same time, this printer also began to self-fold into a size that could be held by a palm, and directly hung on Han Dong's belt with the help of a hook. Somewhat unable to suppress the emotions in his body, Han Dong tried to face the corner of the wall as much as possible. His palms clasped his cheeks tightly, trying to suppress the crazy laughter that kept overflowing. Ha! This is really an unexpected gain. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.